Hello and welcome to the Cloud Strategies and Solutions EcoCast event brought to you by ActualTech Media. My name is David Davis, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. We've got a great event lined up for you today. On today's event, you'll hear from Nutanix, DataCore, Druva, Pure Storage, NetApp, and new presenter, Plumio. Thank you so much for joining us on today's event. I think you're going to learn a lot and hopefully have a good time, have a chance to win some valuable prizes. If you haven't been on an EcoCast or MegaCast event before from ActualTech Media, you should know that we created these events to help educate the world of IT professionals, of which I consider myself one to be as well, to help you to learn about the latest and greatest enterprise technology out there available today, to help you to do it quickly and efficiently from the comfort of your home office, or your office, wherever you might be around the North American continent or around the world. We have got a great event lined up, and this is going to help you to learn about new solutions all around enterprise technology, and specifically today, cloud strategies and solutions. So before we get started, we've got a little bit of housekeeping here that we first need to cover. You should know, like I said, we've got some prizes. I'll talk about the prize terms and conditions in just a moment to be eligible for those prize drawings. We'll be announcing those throughout the event. Questions, we have a Q&A tab. It's right there on the left-hand side. It's next to the Handouts tab. You'll probably see handouts by default, a list of handouts from each of our presenters. If you just look just to the right of that, it says Q&A. Click on that. Post your questions in there. We'll be taking questions throughout the event, so don't hold back, and we'll be doing dedicated Q&A sessions with each of our presenters across or during the event today. So keep those questions coming in. We'll also have some poll questions for you, the audience, and I'll be sharing the results of most of those poll questions with you so you can see how you stack up with your peers. And then social. We want this to be a social event. I'll talk about the hashtag for the event in just a moment, but you can tweet directly from the console. On the bottom, there's a toolbar. There's a Twitter icon there. If you click on that, you type in your tweet, hopefully something good about the event, because the hashtag will be automatically appended, and I'll be following just about anybody who tweets about the event with the hashtag over on Twitter. I'll be tweeting myself, so I hope to do some social with you as well. And then resources. Like I said, we've got some handouts on the Handouts tab there. Some of those are PDFs that you download. Some of those are links that take you directly to the presenter's website. Some of those are ebooks, and some of those are actually slide decks that you can download. So it's a variety of different resources. Make sure that you check those out. And I said that we would talk about prizes. We've got 3 $500 Amazon gift cards to give out today. I'll be announcing those prize drawings throughout the event. If you want to see when those are, you can click on the event schedule button on the bottom of the console there. That shows who's presenting, approximately what time, and approximately when we'll be giving out those gift cards. So make sure you stay tuned for those prize drawings. To be eligible for the prize drawings, you must be live on the event. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. Winners have the option to make a donation to a selected charity. All prize winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to ActualTech Media, and we will reach out to you after the event to deliver your prize. Terms and conditions can be found on the Handouts tab there. If you scroll to the bottom, it'll take you to the prize terms and conditions with all the full legalese. Now, through these events that we've done, we have had many generous attendees who have won a prize and have opted to donate it to one of the selected charities that you see there on the screen. If you choose to do that, when you win a prize, we would love to help you do that, and it makes everybody feel good and helps a lot of people or animals or whatever the charity might be. Social media, the hashtag we are going with today is ATM EcoCast. I'll be following that hashtag. You can follow ActualTech Media over on Twitter, and I am David M. Davis. Feel free to follow me as well. Also, LinkedIn is where we're doing all of our latest and greatest content and most active social media these days. So feel free to follow ActualTech Media on LinkedIn. If you go up to the blue toolbar on the top right hand there, you will see very top right of your console, you'll see icons for LinkedIn, for Facebook, and for YouTube. So, feel free to click on those. Those are clickable icons, and they will take you to our Twitter profile, to our LinkedIn page, and to our YouTube homepage as well. We also have a podcast called the 10 on Tech Podcast. You can find that in the iTunes Store. Now, before we jump into it with our first presentation, I want to do just a little bit of level setting here to kind of set the stage for the presenters who are coming up on the event today. Talking about the state of the cloud. And first off, I have to comment, I really love the mainframe picture there, the mainframe background. I was just drawn to that when I found it, and I hope you like it too, because it's a really cool picture of a mainframe. And it's, kind of that's not what most of us are working with, I'm sure, today. But, when we think of older infrastructure, legacy infrastructure, things that can be inefficient, complex, costly, and, in some cases or many cases, not meet the needs of the business, we might be thinking about that. But most IT organizations out there have a variety of, older technology in place, and it varies from company to company what that might be, what that might mean to your company. And we're looking to new solutions to help us. And cloud is kind of one of the hottest topics right now as to a solution that can help us to be more efficient in the future. But, cloud is a cloudy term. But first, let's talk about the cloud. So what does the cloud provide? Well, the promise of the cloud is greater efficiency than what we're doing now in our on-premises data center or with our traditional infrastructure, because you could still have a private cloud in your own data center. But the cloud solutions provide greater efficiency overall, greater agility for the business and the IT organization. This sort of infinite scalability where, a power user can provision a new application and just whatever storage they need for that application, and kind of like the App Store on your phone, and cloud storage, it just seems infinitely scalable. We in IT know that's not always true, and it's certainly not infinitely free, but it appears to be infinitely scalable. Pay-as-you-go pricing, utility-based pricing model. If it's in the public cloud, you're going to have, pay per minute or usage or some form of consumption-based pricing model. If it's on premises, you're going to have, charge back or show back, but still some sort of billing model to help track consumption and charge back or show back to the business units. But the ultimate promise here is to help the IT organization focus on the business and the apps and spend less time focusing on things that just don't help the business, upgrading operating systems, provisioning LUNs, managing RAID groups, or whatever it might be. It's going to free our time to really make a difference in the company. And I think that's why we're so attracted to cloud in IT as well. It's not going to take our job away. It's going to help us to kind of be the superheroes of the company. But, there's a lot of confusion around cloud. Some marketing people have stepped in, and, now it's very confusing as to exactly what cloud is sometimes, because there's multiple forms of cloud. There's commercials where, people make it look like the cloud is photo sharing or file sharing or talking with your relatives, So what exactly is cloud? Well, there's a lot of different forms. There's private, there's public cloud, hybrid cloud where you connect the two, multiple cloud where you have multiple clouds. Enterprise cloud to me really just means an enterprise grade, probably a private cloud. There's forms of cloud like software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, disaster recovery as a service, which in my mind has become really the hottest entry point into the cloud, backup as a service, and numerous other ways to leverage cloud. And then there's great differences between cloud offerings. You can't simply just take a virtual machine and just upload it to the cloud. There's differences in the formats of those there's a lot of differences but from one cloud to the other cloud. So you have to keep all this in mind. There's different management models, different interfaces, billing models. There's a lot of confusion, and that's left us in IT with a lot of questions. How exactly are we going to use the cloud? How can it best help us? And to me, the use cases really come down to creating a private or hybrid cloud, using cloud for dev test, scaling up your infrastructure, perhaps at certain periods, during the year when you need additional capacity, or perhaps just running, internet-facing applications in the public cloud. Data center migration. Some companies are considering that, completely, but I don't see that happening a lot. To me, data protection and disaster recovery, like I said, is really one of the hottest entry points for the public cloud, and you'll hear a lot about that on the event today. Storage in the cloud, storing your data, in many cases for disaster recovery purposes, SD-WAN, and software as a service, and, Office 365. So I'm thankful on the event today. We've got some really expert presenters. I've seen all the presentations. I've heard from all the presenters. You'll hear from Nutanix, DataCore, Daruva, Pure Storage, NetApp, and Clumio. A lot about private cloud, a lot about software-defined storage, data protection and disaster recovery in the cloud, cloud synchronization, all sorts of cloud strategies and solutions. So we hope that you really enjoy this event. And before we jump into it with our first presenter, I want to get your take on the cloud. So which of these different use cases do you see as your best use case for cloud solutions? And I'm going to share the results of this poll. You should see a poll question there in the slides window. I'm curious to see, what's your most popular, most promising use case for the cloud? So just enter your answer there. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. This is a multi-select question, so you don't have to choose just one. If you have three that you think are really interesting, feel free to select three. All right, lots of responses coming in. Thank you for those. And I see roughly 10 or so people who said there's a use case that's not listed. Go ahead and just pop that in the questions box there, in the Q&A box. Just drop in your use case that's not listed, and I'll share those as well because I'm curious to find out what use cases did I miss on this list. All right, thank you for all those responses. I don't see any use cases not listed coming in. Oh, there's one. All right, remote employee collaboration. Okay, that's a good one. Thank you, Nick. We'll see if we can include that in the poll in the future. That is a good one. I use that every day, I should say. Remote employee collaboration of some kind. All right. Thank you for responding to that poll. Let me share the results of this poll with you. So it looks like 48% said data protection and DR. 47% said cloud storage of some kind. Could be backup, storing backup data up there. Could be another form of cloud storage, followed by 40% that said private cloud, and then all the way down to 21% that said scaling up infrastructure. So those were kind of the top use cases. Neil responded and said they're interested in cloud for data synchronization between locations. Good use case, thank you. And Hansu replied and said LMS, learning management. They're using public cloud for that, or some sort of cloud solution for LMS. So thank you. Thank you for those responses. I appreciate that. And I've got one more poll question before we kick off our first presentation, and that is, what's your time frame for updating your existing or selecting new cloud solutions for your IT environment? So you said, hey, these are the most popular use cases we're interested in at our company. So just kind of follow-up question here, and that is, so what's your time frame? Is this something you're planning to do soon? Is it something you're going to do in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe 12 to 24, or are you not sure? Just don't have a time frame at this point. All right. Thank you, everyone who responded to that poll. It is 15 after the hour. It's time to kick off today's EcoCast with our first presentation. I'm excited to introduce Krishnan, who is a Director of Product Marketing at Nutanix. Krish, take it away.
Thank you for joining this webcast. So today I'd like to talk to you about why you need to take the journey to the enterprise cloud and how you can accomplish that journey. So first, I want to highlight what's top of mind for CIOs and CEOs today. There's a lot of conversation around how CEOs are paving the way for digital innovation to augment customer experiences, use digital avenues to create new opportunities and such, as well as expanding their organization's addressable markets. Now, all of this begins to fall back to the technology organization that's looked upon to unlock these opportunities, digitize processes, create new avenues that customers can interact with companies, be it through web tools or smartphone applications and such. So all of this puts a lot of demand and pressure on IT organizations. Now, given these tall demands, it's a lot easier said than done, right? Because we are still operating infrastructure like we have over the last couple of decades. We've got these various silos within the organization that require us to work with multiple vendors to acquire infrastructure, software that sits upon the infrastructure. And once we've done that, painstakingly put it together and integrated such that it works seamlessly when in production, and when deployed, manages infrastructure across specialist teams, namely for server, virtualization, networking, and storage and such. And when problems happen, come together in a room to troubleshoot what the problem is, and half the time devolve into blaming other teams for being the root cause for that particular problem. None of these scenarios are enjoyable, right? And it only gets worse when you need to roll out upgrades to various elements of the infrastructure stack, be it the BIOS or the virtualization layer, whatnot, right? That might disrupt the performance of the entire stack and have incompatibilities with other layers of the stack. And before you know it, 3 to 5 years from now, it's time to do it all over again. It is no surprise that this operating model forces us as members of the infrastructure and operations teams to focus on the speeds and feeds. We focus over 80% of our time just upon the infrastructure when our stakeholders within the business or outside our customers and partners really care only about the 20%, the applications that run upon the infrastructure and that are consumed by them to get their jobs done or consume the services that the company is providing. They have no appreciation for what's under the water level. But we as members of the IT infrastructure and operations teams understand that for those applications to perform 24/7 seamlessly every single second of the day for our customers and for our business partners, you need a solid bedrock that's built upon the infrastructure. So quite often, what we do, the role we play is that of an unsung hero, right? So, and this has been apparent based upon a survey we just conducted across a global audience of IT leaders when asked whether application developers collaborated with them when they needed IT infrastructure. 57% of them said that application developers consistently circumvent IT because IT is perceived as an inhibitor to innovation as opposed to one that fosters innovation. Now, we as members of the IT infrastructure and operations teams are smart, right? We understand that what forces us to stay in the speeds and feeds is the infrastructure itself. So one very viable option is make infrastructure someone else's problem, right? Enter the public cloud. So by doing so, you've basically outsourced infrastructure to a third-party organization, namely the public cloud vendor, and you're able to immediately offer those benefits to your stakeholders, right? They're able to deploy applications now. There's this perception of less management. You get to pay only by use, so you don't have to commit budgets for a 3 to 5 year cycle. And finally, the infrastructure just keeps getting better and better with the continuous updates that are being pushed and deployed by the cloud vendor. But what we found is applications are beginning to return on premises within the data centers. Based on a survey we've conducted, we found that respondents said that they were 35% consistently over budget with their public cloud spending. And 80% of those respondents are moving over 50% of their applications back on premises. And this trend is not slowing down. It was 81% last year, and it's trending at 85% in 2019. So what's truly needed is this harmonious balance between public cloud and private cloud, where you've got workloads and initiatives that are best suited for public cloud, that are targeted towards your public cloud deployments, and for those more predictable enterprise-grade, business-critical applications that require performance control, the best place to land those applications is in the private cloud environment. And that is where we help customers get those public cloud benefits within the constructs of their private data centers. And we do that by delivering software-driven hyperconverged infrastructure that can be deployed upon infrastructure platforms of our customers' choices, and also enable customers to choose the virtualization layer that they would prefer based upon current skill sets or the natures of the workloads that are being run upon them. So this enables our customers to not just harness the benefits of public cloud within their private data centers, but also choose how they create their cloud experiences within their own data centers. So that is the dual benefit of choosing to use software-defined hyperconverged infrastructure to do that. And you'll find that, based upon the survey that I referred to previously, IT leaders across the world subscribe to this point of view. They want to land about 36% of their workloads on hybrid cloud, a significant number in private cloud, and about a quarter of those workloads within the public cloud. Now, this, while it might seem like a very harmonious solution, it causes other challenges where you've created silos between your environments where they previously existed between layers of the infrastructure. The applications and data are not portable across public, private, and distributed edges. There is different management methodologies across private, public, and distributed edge. So typically, you would find that you have the chief Amazon officer or the chief Azure officer, the CIO that continues to control the private cloud, and this emerging title that we've seen at some of the larger organizations called the chief digital officer that tends to manage more of these IoT and forward-thinking initiatives that address these distributed edge use cases. What's truly needed is to create one fabric of infrastructure that spans across these disparate environments, along with a shared pool of data that can be leveraged irrespective of where the applications need to land or who is building or delivering these applications, and upon which a shared set of services are constantly available to the innovators in your organization so they can very quickly deliver results with their innovations, right? So this is where IT has an opportunity to change the perception of being inhibitors to innovation to one that fosters innovations by really delivering that platform that fosters innovation to the multiple stakeholders within the organization, irrespective of whether they sit at HQ or are building edge applications or IoT applications in Timbuktu, for example, right? So this is where Nutanix has set its vision to be able to deliver that enterprise cloud platform that is easy to manage and control from one single user interface across these disparate environments, so as to enable IT to deliver against business requirements as opposed to manage the speeds and feeds and the underlying complexity of these infrastructure deployments. So how did we go about doing that? First, the public cloud has done a lot of this at scale, right? So to begin, what we did is we took a good look at what best practices were put in place to enable public cloud architectures, right? And those included by making sure that there were no single points of failure, that it ran on off-the-shelf hardware, that it incorporated self-healing systems that enable the infrastructure to run at scale without an army of IT specialists to manage it, and pervasively adopt machine learning automation capabilities that were able to observe infrastructure performance and take action when possible to ensure that the environment was running without disruption and the applications are running at top performance. And to do this, when you do this well, you get all those public cloud benefits. The rapid time to market, the ability to pay as you grow, so you can start really small and scale out as your needs and your demands grow, and to be able to capitalize upon one-click operations that enable you to do complex operations with a single click. So what does this look like when you look under the covers? So what we've effectively done with hyperconverged infrastructure delivered by Nutanix is take what you see on the left, the traditional architectures where you've got the compute farms, the storage networks that connect up to the various SANs through the storage controller, the virtualization layer that sits on top of that, finally allowing the applications to be run upon this infrastructure. So we've taken the complexity you see on the left and reduced it to a turnkey software-defined computing platform, right, which is delivered by Nutanix AOS. And what makes this really unique is that you can start small and scale out as your needs grow, non-disruptively. And it also allows you to use the virtualization layer that you would prefer to use on top of Nutanix, or enables you to use the built-in virtualization capabilities, namely AHV, that is delivered by Nutanix. When you go to public cloud, the last question you ask is what the virtualization layer is, and we believe that this should be the experience that you enjoy when you are using a hyperconverged infrastructure-powered private cloud within your own data centers. And what makes this increasingly attractive is that it works with your existing rack configuration and your top of rack switches as well. Now, how did we get this done? So looking under the covers, right, here is what a traditional virtualized environment looks like. You've got your server farms, your hypervisors, your VMs that run on top of it, storage networks and the SANs. So with converging storage solutions, with HCI, what we've done is we've eliminated the need for those SANs and added storage into the nodes that sit within the compute farms, right? And you can choose a variety of storage technologies, be it flash, NVMe, or spinning disks, that sit with all these nodes. And once that's done, you virtualize the storage controllers. So in effect, what you've got is one distributed storage pool that spans across the nodes within your cluster that enables you to start small and scale out without limits. Performance only gets better as you scale out. And you can begin to imbibe some of those public cloud practices, which enables you to convert capital expenses to operating expenses by starting based on exactly what you need and using demand and new application workloads as reasons to scale out that environment over time. Secondly, it's got a lot of storage smarts built into the software that enable you to keep data local to those workloads. For example, if you've got an application running on Node 1, the data associated with that application is kept in Node 1. So what you've done is you've eliminated hops that would otherwise have existed on the storage network, and as a result, you enjoy increased IOPS. Finally, there is no notion of refresh in this mode of operation. You can mix different node types from different hardware generations within a single cluster, and that enables you to continue to add new technologies while still getting the benefits of older technologies that run within this hyperconverged infrastructure-based cluster. Now, the storage capabilities are advanced and meet all of those requirements that enterprises have, right from being able to very smartly tier data between various temperatures of storage that you might have in the node. If data is more hotly accessed, it's kept in the hot tier, namely flash, and if it finds that it is accessed less frequently, it will move the data to spinning disks if you have a hybrid storage environment. Secondly, it has native compression capabilities, deduplication capabilities to give you greater economies on how you use your storage. And finally, it's got RF2, RF3, and erasure coding built into the software that enable you to make sure that you are protected from any data losses. So every time there is data written to a specific node, it keeps copies of that in other nodes as well. So if that node were to go down, or if that disk gets corrupt, those blocks are recreated and data is preserved. It also has you protected from a DER perspective, from a disaster recovery specifically, that's perspective, right, where it has native capabilities to help you synchronize across environments. So in the case of a failure, you can seamlessly fail over to a secondary site and fail back when your primary site is back up and running. It also has advanced security capabilities by being able to automatically check for security compliances and bring it back to the state, bring it back to compliance as well, right? So, it augments that further by being able to ensure that data at rest is encrypted. So it has support for both software, self-encrypting drives, or enables you to use software-defined encryption capabilities along with local key management. Now, in effect, you've been able to, with this, it's not just about consolidating infrastructure, but it's about consolidating operations as well. So with Nutanix hyperconverged infrastructure, what you're able to do is exactly that. You've got one single pane of glass that's delivered through Prism that enable you to very quickly acquire new infrastructure as and when you need it, as your environments need to grow, and add them to your clusters, which is then auto-discovered, and the resources automatically added to the pool, right, both for compute and storage. And when it comes to managing your infrastructure, it gives you end-to-end visibility across your infrastructure, right from the compute, storage, and the virtualization layers, along with the ability to detect anomalies when performance is being impacted. Or if you're looking to optimize your environment by eliminating idle VMs or often VMs, or managing QoS for VMs, bully VMs, or under-provisioned VMs. And fourthly, and almost as importantly, is that it enables you to do one-click upgrades across the infrastructure stack. Those painful processes that go into studying compatibility matrices and ensuring that you've created a right dependency map for upgrades across the infrastructure stack, whether it's at the firmware level or the hypervisor level, you're able to reduce all that into a one-click process right from within Prism. With Prism, you can orchestrate upgrades right from the BIOS up to the hypervisor and any other Nutanix software you have in place with one click. And Nutanix understands the dependencies across all these elements in the infrastructure stack and is able to orchestrate the right order of upgrades for you. Then finally, we spoke about scale, where you can continue to understand the runway of your environment based upon past behavior. So you will be able to get real-time visibility into when you will run out of resources and what you need to do and in terms of acquiring new infrastructure and software to be able to plan for growth or to add additional workloads to your environment. Now, this is something we've all been proud of, and our customers enjoy the simplicity and the ease of use that hyperconverged infrastructure has been able to deliver within their environments. Here are examples of customers. The first one doing an upgrade from a helicopter using a smartphone, and the second one is another customer doing an update from his Tesla, and the third one is just a Nutanix fan who has a lot of Nutanix swag, right? So I thought it was a fun picture to add in there. So Nutanix has a lot of versatility, right? So it's not a point solution for any specific workload. What it enables you to do is to really achieve that enterprise cloud platform that you need to run a variety of workloads, address a variety of use cases within your organization, right from being able to run those enterprise applications or deploy VDI environments built upon Citrix or VMware, or consolidate infrastructure management and operations across multiple sites, including data centers and remote and branch offices, to be able to deliver collaboration and unified communication solutions for your workforce, to address the needs of developers by giving them cloud-native stacks or developer clouds that they can innovate upon and eventually deliver into production upon a Nutanix-powered enterprise cloud environment, to be able to run big data workloads, to exploit large, massive, vast amounts of data and gain intelligence to make better business decisions, and to rely upon the platform to run those mission-critical workloads built upon SAP and Oracle, which have to be resilient and performant 24/7 to keep the business running. And of course, to be able to do all this while you have the power to choose which hardware platforms you want to run the hyperconverged infrastructure software upon, and which virtualization layer you want to put into place based upon skills that you have and the applications that you want to run within your environment. Nutanix has been recognized as the undisputed leader in this area, specifically for hyperconverged infrastructure, by leading analyst firms, namely Gartner, Forrester, and as the leader from a market share perspective by IDC. We also did a TCO study. We commissioned a study with IDC to understand what the implications were of adopting hyperconverged infrastructure by Nutanix. And we found over a reasonable sample of our enterprise customers that they were able to reduce total cost of ownership by over 60%. They had 97% fewer unplanned outages, 3-digit ROI over 5 years, were able to pay back the investments on Nutanix within 7 months, and really be able to contribute to additional streams of revenue within the first year. And you get to do all this while you're partnered with the industry's best support organization. We're spread across 100 countries, have multiple worldwide support centers, and the person who picks up the phone when you have a support case is the one that solves it for you. So all our support engineers are highly trained have deep experiences and certifications in virtualization and infrastructure technologies, and are in a position to handle a vast variety of issues that you may experience with and outside of your Nutanix environment. And this is what has given us a 90+% NPS score, which is an indicator to whether a customer would recommend Nutanix to his or her friend or colleague. And it is the highest NPS score that we have in the hyperconverged infrastructure space today. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please ask away. Thank you.
All right, great presentation there from Krish. Thank you very much. We do have a poll question I'm going to bring up now that says, what additional information would you like about the Nutanix solution? So I'll just bring that poll question up, and that is on the screen right now. And this is a multi-select question, so you can select more than one option, and we'll have this same question after each of the presenters on the event today. So let's see, I'll leave that up, and I want to see if there's any questions coming in from the audience in the Q&A section here for Nutanix. What did you think about the presentation? What questions did you have about private cloud? Let's see. This person is asking, how does your platform help customers drive revenue, as indicated in the IDC report? A good question. We will be forwarding that question to Krish. Let's see, what other questions are coming in here? Jason's having trouble checking the boxes, answering the poll. If you have trouble, Jason, I'm sorry about that. Just click refresh on your web browser. 99% of the time that will resolve it, but let me know, of course, if it does not. All right, and if you have additional questions, you'd like to learn more about the Nutanix solution, I encourage you to check out the Nutanix handout that's there in your audience console. This is the Nutanix private cloud ebook called Your Cloud, Your Way, on how to build enterprise clouds with private cloud solutions. And if you have questions about the return on investment for private cloud, I actually recently did a webinar with the, I believe this title is Vice President of Competitive Solutions there at Nutanix. And one of the things he does is to help companies compare the cost of taking things to the public cloud or taking applications and infrastructure to the public cloud versus leaving it on premises. And he actually has a book out there that I wish we had for download as well. And it's called the Nutanix ROI, here it is, Enterprise Cloud ROI Guide out there. It's a free ebook, so make sure that you check that out as well if you're trying to compare between moving applications and infrastructure to the public cloud. All right. Excellent, excellent. Okay, looks like we got all the questions for now. And with that, it's time to move on to our next presenter on today's event. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Stephen Hunt, Senior Director of Product Management at DataCore. Stephen, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Thanks for being on, Steve. Take it away.
Thanks, David. And thanks, everyone, for joining. As David said, my name is Stephen Hunt. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management at DataCore. And I wanted to talk about a couple of different use cases related to the cloud, and ultimately how DataCore helps facilitate, addressing those particular use cases. So we're really going to focus on two topics from a use case standpoint. One, about leveraging cloud for storing inactive data or archival data, and also how potentially you can leverage the cloud for disaster recovery purposes. So let's kind of dive in here. From an agenda standpoint, first I want to highlight, why would anyone want to move data to the cloud? What are the reasons for that? There's probably a number of different reasons. I'll highlight a few of those. Then I want to talk about a couple of our products and ultimately how we facilitate addressing some of those potential use cases. One of those is a newly launched product, DataCore v Filo. and then one of our long-standing and flagship products, DataCore Sand Symphony. And then, where do we go from here? What's next now that you've learned this information? And then obviously Q&A there at the end. And I think we'll have a poll question as well somewhere amongst the slides. So let's dive into it. Why would anyone move data to the cloud? I think that's a common question that a lot of IT administrators ask themselves. And it really depends upon your organization and ultimately what are you trying to accomplish. One of the most common reasons why I hear that people need to move data to the cloud is to solve the exponential data growth problem. The reality is data is growing so fast, and the need to store that is sometimes outpacing the ability of IT operations teams to scale their storage solutions quickly. So one of the effective approaches is being able to move that data into a public cloud storage option, and that's one of the things that I'll kind of show you today how we can help facilitate that. And a lot of this oftentimes is associated with we're going to move inactive data or archival data to the cloud for long-term cost-effective storage while we maintain all of our on-premises storage for highly active hot data that needs the most performance. The next reason why people would move to the cloud is ultimately just facilitating multi-site backup of data. In today's world, being able to recall that data, have it available whenever is necessary in the event of a disaster situation, or whether it be natural or unnatural disasters. It's something that most IT organizations are faced with this problem. They need to be able to ensure that data is available, and one of the most sound approaches is storing that data, copies of that data in multiple sites, more specifically leveraging the public cloud as one of those sites. And the last one I want to highlight is really oftentimes you have an IT leader that has come back from a conference, has talked to their colleagues, their peers, and ultimately has enacted a couple of initiatives, and one of those are we need to have a cloud strategy. We need to have a hybrid cloud strategy. We need to have a public cloud strategy. We need to have some type of cloud strategy. So oftentimes you have to move data to the cloud simply just to deliver on your IT leader's strategic initiative. I've talked to a number of people who, when we asked, why ultimately are they moving to the data to the cloud, it is because their CIO said that we have to. So if you're faced with any of these particular reasons, and again, there's a number of reasons why you would move to the data cloud, but if you're faced with these particular reasons, these are some very common use cases, and I want to highlight how a couple of our products can help facilitate them. So the first is DataCore vFilo. This is a new solution that we launched recently, and it is really focused on taking our software-defined storage approach that we have done with Sand Symphony and driving that into file and object storage solutions. So at a quick glance, DataCore vFilo can really help facilitate the assimilation of existing files and file storage and NAS solutions that you have in your environment. It can, you can deploy vFilo as a standalone NAS, and it's a great capability to provide a new scale-out approach to your file storage needs. Doing so with a software-defined storage component. But just like we have done with Sand Symphony, and I'll speak to that a little bit more in a moment, the ability to leverage your existing investments is very, very important to most IT organizations. You have to maximize your dollar usage. And so as a result of that, we wanted to make sure that we had a solution that allows you not only to deploy standalone instances of vFilo for net new file storage capabilities, but also to leverage those existing investments that you've made in file storage and NAS. I'll show you a little bit more about how we achieve that. vFilo also enables organizations to create this single place for interaction by applications and users, right? Every IT organization out there has a number of file shares that they manage, and oftentimes they've been deployed in such a siloed manner that it's become difficult to manage, and it's also become difficult for users and applications to navigate. So vFilo really helps aggregate all of that under a single global scalable searchable catalog, and so you can then point your users and your applications to that and not have to worry about, where does this share exist, where does that share exist, what is the pathway to this particular share. The other thing that vFilo does really, really well is it takes all of the requests that are happening from a data read and a data write perspective, and it balances that across any of the available storage. Again, whether it be a vFilo native storage node or an existing storage solution that you've assimilated with vFilo. One of the most important things that I'm going to talk about today is how vFilo can leverage the public cloud capabilities and allow you to have a hybrid cloud approach and expand your storage from on-prem into the cloud. And then all of this really is driven by our ability to move data effectively. And the way we move data is based upon policy definition and business intent. And so I'll show you a little bit more about that here in just a minute. So I mentioned assimilating existing file storage solutions. It's really, really simple. Once you get vFilo stood up, you simply add a new storage system. vFilo storage nodes are added automatically. It detects those, and you'll see those within the UI. But if you need to add existing storage solutions, all you have to do is add a storage system in the UI, select the type of storage system, the file-based storage system that you want to connect to, and you'll see a number of those in the list. And then you'll enter in the information to be able to connect to that, and then we'll start that assimilation process. And that assimilation process can really be from a read-only or a read-write perspective, and I'll speak about that here in just a minute. But this allows you to establish your scale-out file storage solution with vFilo very, very quickly by expanding what you need with vFilo storage nodes, and also facilitating connectivity and interaction with your existing file storage solutions. If you have, if your solution isn't in the list there, you can simply choose the other NFS option, and that will allow you to connect to generic NFS shares and be able to read the data that exists there. Once you've added basically your file storage capabilities, and this is for all of your on-premises interaction, the next thing that you can do is assign an object or a cloud storage. So this is going to allow you to move data after compression, after deduplication, into an object store. And for this particular part of the conversation, really I want to focus on the ability to move this into public cloud storage capabilities. So as you can see in this list, you can add AWS S3 buckets, you can add Azure blobs, we even have Google Cloud Storage in there as well. There's IBM Cloud Object Storage. There's a number of different object storages. You'll see some on-premise related storage, object storage as well. So if you want to build up an on-premises object storage solution, to move your data from high capacity, high performance file storage into lower performing archival object storage solution on-prem, you can do that. But also note that for moving data to the cloud, you can simply select that object storage solution from that particular vendor, and then input your connection information, and then we will add that as a storage system, and then you can start leveraging that. So I was mentioning assimilation, and ultimately how do we start interacting with the file storage data that you have today. right? So when you add vFilo into your environment and you connect it to your existing solutions, we start with a metadata assimilation. And this is really explains to vFilo what data is there. We don't actually start assimilating the files themselves. We start a metadata assimilation so we can start to catalog and understand what data is available, where does it live, and what we need to do with it. From that point in time, then you can actually start delivering a movement policy and allow that data to either exist on that third-party file storage solution or move it to a vFilo storage node. And so again, we can do this, if it's on an existing solution, it can be read-only access where vFilo just simply understands where it is and helps the applications and users know where to get to underneath that new global shared catalog. Or you can, define a policy that is ultimately going to allow that data to move to a vFilo storage node if you want to migrate off of that legacy third-party NAS solution. And the one thing, I want to highlight very, very quickly is this is all policy-driven, right? And so how do you facilitate that policy mechanism to allow this to happen and ultimately allow that movement of data to the cloud? We say you simply state your objective, and there's a reason for that. We call our policies objectives in vFilo. So what you will do is once you've got your storage configured, right, you've got your file storage in place, you've got your object storage connection defined, you simply just want to state your objectives. And what you see here is a very clear example of where we've stated that if any of our live files with an extension of MP4 is less than 6 months old, then we want to exclude it from moving to any of our object volumes, right? But if it's older than 6 months, we want to place that on our one of our specific Azure blobs that we've connected to and made available. So once you've defined this objective and you click go, now vFilo starts to evaluate all of the data that exists in your environment and then starts to place it in the appropriate location. So in this case, everything that is an MP4 file extension, and is older than 6 months is going to start moving to that Azure blob, and you're going to see the data move. Now, it's still accessible by the end user in the applications, right? They still have that same front-end communication that existed through their NFS share, but what they now have is ability to access that data. If they need to retrieve that data, they simply say, hey, I want to double-click on an MP4 file. vFilo then says, okay, where does that live? Let me make that accessible and pull that in. Now, the interaction with that file now changes the inactive state of the file, and now that file can start moving based upon whatever objectives have been defined to wherever is appropriate. That may mean now it's going to move back on-prem in the local data center and make it, put that back on a more performant, highly performant file storage solution. So one of the things that I want to highlight is ultimately, again, why would we move data to the cloud? Well, one of those reasons is we have very expensive storage on-prem, right? It's usually high performant. It usually is fairly costly. And as a result, we want to take advantage of the cloud and move some of the inactive data or archival data off of our expensive on-premises storage and move it to a low-cost, object-based storage in the cloud. And all you have to do is simply define your policy that is going to allow that data to move. And so now all of a sudden, all of your inactive data is deduped, it's compressed, and it's moved either to maybe a lower-cost vFilo storage node or moved into the cloud for ongoing storage. And then the next aspect of how you can leverage vFilo to solve the other use case that we're talking about, which is disaster recovery. now you can define your policies such that you can replicate the data, make backup copies of the data into the cloud. And so through your policy-based definition, you're taking your files, you're saying, hey, I need to do something with those, whether it be move to lower cost storage on premises or make a copy into the cloud or just move the entire thing to the cloud. You have complete control of where the data lives and exists with vFilo through that policy-based definition. So now, have a disaster recovery event, you now have a copy of the data that lives in the cloud. You can easily start bringing that back on premises and allow that restore of that particular data. The other thing I want to highlight is everything that I've talked about today it can be done all the way down to the file granular level. So you can do it for an entire volume, or you can do it for an entire type of file set, or you can do it for an individual file itself. And so vFilo helps facilitate that. And there's a number of different features and data services that ultimately you can leverage, like snapshots, replication. All of those capabilities can go all the way down to a file granular level. So we've talked about vFilo and its capabilities. The next thing I want to highlight is SAN Symphony. And again, this solution has been the flagship product of DataCore for a very long time. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is our block-based software-defined storage system, and it has a comprehensive set of features and data services. Just at a quick glance, like I was talking about the ability to assimilate existing file storage solutions and object storage solutions with vFilo, SAN Symphony has long held the ability to consume existing storage area network direct attached storage solutions and manage those through SAN Symphony. The other capability that SAN Symphony has been able to provide with great fanfare has been our ability to increase the performance of existing storage solutions. So some of the proprietary capabilities that we have around caching and parallel I/O allow for the performance of your block-based storage solution to be increased by leveraging SAN Symphony. We also have a very highly available design that allows data to not only be accelerated, but also become highly available through our mirroring and replication capabilities. So for those business critical workloads, SAN Symphony can help facilitate the replication of that data to ensure that no matter what happens to the underlying infrastructure, it's always available. And that aspect is how we help ultimately facilitate the ability to store data off-site from a replication standpoint and be able to make that available in the event of a disaster recovery scenario. We also have the ability to tier across different disk pools, and this really helps a cost-effective sizing mechanism for your block-based storage. And then, as I was mentioning, replicating across data centers and to the cloud to help facilitate that disaster recovery scenario. So let's kind of talk about how ultimately that can be facilitated. If you notice the diagram that I have here, with SAN Symphony, it provides the access and the connectivity to that upstream component, which is any type of host, a physical host, a virtual host, a hypervisor. It ultimately facilitates that iSCSI fiber channel connection down into either local storage, existing direct attached storage, existing SAN storage, and we ultimately aggregate that into a set of storage pools that then we tier that information from one location to another. Facilitating through a cloud access gateway, you can actually connect and move that data through the tiering mechanism all the way down. As data gets older and older and older, those blocks can actually be sent into a block-based storage in the public cloud. And again, this would help ensure that as the data gets older, it's set in the cloud and allows for that data to ultimately, as it gets accessed, those blocks can be brought back on premises and put back in the high performance tier. thing that we can help facilitate in terms of the replication is you can actually go to the Azure Marketplace. This is one area where we've made our software available for cloud consumption, and we're looking at evaluating capabilities for customers to do that across different clouds. But we started with Azure, and we have the ability to enable deployment of DataCore natively through the Azure Marketplace, connect that to your on-premises SAN Symphony deployment, and allow the replication of your data from one site to the other. And ultimately, it's really, really simple. You have two instances of DataCore, one running on-premises, one running in Azure. You have your application connecting to it on the top end, and SAN Symphony is helping facilitate the movement of that data, either through a tiering mechanism or through a replication definition that you want to replicate data over to the cloud and ensure that when you have a disaster recovery event, when you have a failover event happen, you can ensure that your SQL Server instances in this case are up and running and that the data is available. And once you need to fail back, you can actually initiate that failback through SAN Symphony, allow all that data to go back over to on-prem when you're ready to initiate the failback mechanism of SAN Symphony. So, these are a couple of different ways of ultimately how DataCore can help facilitate, moving data from on-premises to the cloud for, expansion purposes, for archival purposes, for backup and recovery purposes. We have some of those capabilities built into our products today and can get you down that path faster. So where do you go from here? Really, really simple. If you want to learn more about, what I had talked about from a, cloud capability standpoint, or if you want to know just more capabilities about these products themselves beyond these specific cloud use cases, you can go to datacore.com/products/vFilo, and you can learn more about DataCore vFilo. And you can also go to datacore.com/products/SDS, and you can learn more about DataCore SAN Symphony. And like I said, there's a whole host of additional features and capabilities and data services that I didn't talk about today, and we highlight those on our product pages where you can learn more. So with that, I think I'm done. I guess we can get to any questions.
Absolutely, yeah. Great presentation, Stephen. We do have some questions for you. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up this first poll question for a minute, and I want to call the audience's attention to that. In the slides window there, it says, do you have any active or upcoming storage projects in the next 6 months? So let's see. First question, Stephen, Neil is asking, what's the most obvious difference between DataCore and SAY? And he has a competitor listed there. I won't name competitors, but what do you think makes DataCore unique above the competition?
That's a great question. I would say that our ability, so specifically, I'll speak to each of the products that we were mentioning here. Actually, from an overall standpoint, DataCore takes a software-defined storage approach to these different scenarios. So we're a software-only component that drives the consumption of existing solutions, facilitating through our own native nodes, the overall management of data, whether it be block, file, or object. And we take a software-defined storage approach to that, which means we essentially become the overarching management of storage. We allow IT organizations to aggregate the management of that storage and allow IT organizations to present a single source for consumption of that storage for their applications, their workloads, their users, their host. That's one of the things that makes DataCore very, very unique is our ability to do this across block, file, and object storage. Specifically around like vFilo as a product itself, one of the unique capabilities about vFilo is really it is the combination of a file storage solution with a data management solution. So not only can you just facilitate basic capabilities of file storage and NAS, you also have advanced data management. So through our ability to consume metadata information and give full control on a policy basis to the IT organization over that data, that's something that we provide very, very unique, that's going to allow the effective management of both the expansion of data in an organization, as well as just the day-to-day operations that are needed for a file and object storage solution. And then same with SAN Symphony, the ability for organizations to have an overall management component of their block-based storage solution, aggregate that all in and facilitate the management of that in a pooled and tiered fashion, and then increase the performance and capability of that for their application hosts, hypervisors, virtual machines. It provides that, again, that software-defined storage approach to block-based storage.
Got it. Okay. And excuse me, I'm going to bring up the next poll question for the audience while we do some more Q&A. So another question here that came in, maybe you can just kind of quickly summarize for those who got a little confused between the two different products. Can you just quickly tell us what's the difference between vFilo and SAN Symphony?
Great question. So it may have not been readily understood there, but in a nutshell, vFilo is our file and object software-defined storage solution. So it allows for the consumption and the management of file and object storage and presentation of those capabilities through the standard file and object interfaces in NFS, SMB, and coming in this calendar year 2020, an S3 compliant front-end interface. So that's vFilo, and SAN Symphony is our block-based software-defined storage solution, which allows the consumption of local, direct attached, or network-based block storage through iSCSI and Fiber Channel, aggregation and management of that, and presentation of that to hosts through iSCSI and Fiber Channel connections.
Got it. Okay. And then I want to call everyone's attention to the poll question on the screen there if you haven't answered it. Let's do one more question, and that is, if somebody wants to get started with vFilo or SAN Symphony, what do you recommend? Is there a POC kind of process they can go through?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If you go on to datacore.com/products, either vFilo or SDS, you'll see a try it now component that exists on our website, and that allows people to just quickly download and interact with the software themselves. Software-defined storage solutions are easy to adopt, but there are some complexities that exist there. So I would highly encourage anyone that's interested to contact us and let us know that they're interested in trying out these one of these or both of these products, and we can get them partnered with one of our field partners, our channel partners, and one of our field sales resources to maybe either go down a basic evaluation process or maybe a full-scale proof of concept process.
Got it. Okay. Well, I know we could chat about this just all day. I know I could. I really enjoyed the presentation, Stephen, and I appreciate you being on the event today. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for everyone taking the time to listen. And I hope you were able to get something meaningful out of it.
Very good. Yeah, very good presentation. And I want to point out you can access the DataCore website directly in the Handouts tab by clicking on the DataCore link, which will take you to datacore.com, and you can sign up to do a POC or download some more information yourself. All right. Well, thank you, Stephen, and thank you to DataCore for supporting today's event. And now it's time to move on to our next presentation on the Cloud Strategies and Solutions EcoCast event. And that is Mr. Peter Elliman of Druva. Take it away, Peter.
Great, thank you. My name is Peter Ellman. I'm Director of Product Marketing here at Druva, and going to talk to you about how Druva is uniquely positioned to deliver the next generation of data protection. One of the things driving customer adoption of the Druva platform is the evolution of workloads from traditional on-prem workloads to moving those into virtual machines. And really, customers are going from there and moving further out as they develop their applications. And so what you see here is really the evolution of workloads that's causing customers to ask questions about how they're protecting their data. That's because that data is starting to live in more and more places, but also because they're looking for better coverage, easier ability to scale, and often different cost parameters in which they deal. We'll talk a little bit more about that now. The other thing, or in just a moment, excuse me, the other thing that's impacting customers today are threats and regulations. So an increase in spend, frankly, despite advances in technology. So a 200% increase in the spend on data protection and management over the last 3 years, despite lots of improvements in technology that should, frankly, be lowering the cost of data protection. And then the increase in threats and regulation is clearly being driven by the increasing digitization of both business applications and the data those businesses hold, and the cyber threats that seek to sort of gain advantage from taking and stealing those resources. And that's governments seeking to control and offer better that. So you see some examples here of both ransomware, which is definitely impacting what a backup team does, especially if your backup application is in the data center and connected to your network and all your servers. The ability to actually perform DR. So that's a huge cost, and as customers look to move to the cloud, the question is how can they better serve that? And then, of course, things like GDPR. So these are the outside forces. And what that means is that the business requirements that customers have are evolving. And that could be because you've got a cloud mandate that you need to answer to in terms of migrating more of your workloads and having more cloud-based applications in your IT stack. It could be to meet specific use cases, be they disaster recovery, as I mentioned before, or simplifying what happens in locations like a remote office or branch office. The cyber resiliency. So you didn't have this conversation 2 or 3 years ago, which is, what sort of resilience does our data protection have in the event of a ransomware attack? How are we protected, and how are we able to not have to fall prey to that? And then finally, we're spending a lot of money storing this data, this on secondary data, if you will. How can we unlock the value of that data to learn more about what our organization is doing and simply do more with that data? And those changes, I think, are forcing customers to want a different type of data protection. They want data protection to be easier to scale and easier to use, and essentially like a service, like many of the things they're already using. One of the first places that comes up is with capacity planning, because in a traditional model with on-premises storage, you're on a treadmill, if you will, where every time you start to get close to the ceiling of capacity, say 30% or something like that, left in your capacity, you need to start planning to buy more. And that puts you in sort of an endless cycle, whether you're the manager of a storage team or you're the actual backup admin. That's a lot of wasted effort, simply having to do storage and capacity planning. And then when it comes to building faster, that's about deploying new instances of your backup infrastructure or even upgrading it, right? So how can that happen faster? Well, you need to be able to eliminate, the best way is to eliminate some of the complexity of putting that infrastructure together. And then evolved IT. So to what degree can the backup infrastructure be scalable to meet self-service needs, right? So there's scalability for performance, but there's also self-service from different administrators, whether it be a VM team, a database team, or even a team looking to do research on that data. And then lastly, local and global. So the degree to which you can offer local data recovery wherever in the world you may be, but also be able to provide relevant governance and control over that data and get that information more quickly. And often that can be pretty cumbersome with a lot of the traditional on-premise solutions. SaaS transformation is already occurring across the IT stack. So someone on this call can probably identify one of the applications or platforms on this slide that they're using in their organization today. So whether it's from Salesforce to Office 365, you name it, somewhere in this stack, you're using a SaaS application. And data protection and management really is the next layer that's making that movement. Druva offers a unified SaaS data protection solution that allows customers to cover both their endpoints, their workloads in the data center, as well as workloads that are running in the cloud. We do this through a central cloud platform that's built on top of AWS. And the benefits it gives to customers is, of course, across these three tiers of data protection and DR capabilities for all of these workloads, improved governance capabilities, whether that's for compliance purposes, e-discovery, or even the ability to archive data for compliance purposes for long-time retention. And then additional intelligence in terms of what's happening with that data and the users who are accessing it. What makes SaaS data protection so appealing to customers is this ability to scale on demand. And what you see in this picture here is the stair step really is in light blue that you see is often what happens with the hardware you might have in your environment today. And that is that you often have to over provision when you purchase because you're buying for the next 2 to 3 years. So you're going to buy a lot more capacity now than you need for the next 3 years. And then in the future, you'll have to spend time, as I mentioned earlier, say when you get to only 30% capacity left, you'll have to start spending time and resources to plan and purchase new storage, which you'll purchase actually before you finish using up the capacity on your existing storage. And so in that manner, there's always some underutilized storage capacity because no enterprise I know is going to allow themselves to get to 100% utilization in terms of storage. So the scaling on demand is very valuable. But the other thing that's often not said is the installation and maintenance requirements that often go with this. So being able to eliminate those and not have to build your own solution is a huge value to customers. And so SaaS delivers this, and what you need simply is ways to make getting to the cloud easier. And we do that through global deduplication and an incremental forever backup technology, and then really add on some services on top of that. And I'll talk about this a bit more as we move forward. So why do customers consider Druva for data center workloads? It's a frictionless experience. So it's intuitively easy for almost anyone to begin using Druva. They don't need to be a highly trained backup admin. At the same time, we offer that drill-in capabilities that experienced admins may want to access or use. It's better by the day. So we are doing updates to the platform twice a month. And of course, none of this capacity management, maintenance, security maintenance, or complex procurement exists for those customers. Declining costs. So we mentioned global deduplication, and of course, that's pretty pervasive in the backup industry today. But we deliver that deduplication across all of the storage tiers. So we back up to AWS and we put it in S3 storage, but we actually offer customers the ability to migrate that data across storage tiers. And of course, what we're migrating is just the dedupe data. So you're not going to have sort of pools of dedupe data up in the cloud. It's just one tier. And then this ability to tackle the long-term retention through auto-tiering of storage into cold storage is a huge piece in terms of being able to drive down that cost. The scale and flexibility, that's both from a performance standpoint. So because your application stack is running in the cloud, we can scale up to meet any type of backup or recovery needs. But also this flexibility. So if you've got too much data that in your versus the pipe you have to the cloud, we have things like Snowball Edge integration to allow you to bulk seed the cloud. And then again, we support things like AWS Outpost for those customers who are looking at a hybrid cloud strategy or specifically want to bring some of those workloads, hybrid workloads, keep them in the data center. We support that and so can further simplify that desire to move to the cloud. Security is really backed up through our cloud architecture. We frankly have better security than what you're going to be getting today with a traditional on-premise. Everything from our envelope encryption, which means only you, the customer, can access that data, to the fact that we're disconnected from your network, and in that sense, we create some data isolation. The extensibility of our cloud platform really allows customers to begin to retire some of the other stacks or applications they may have been using. And then finally, we're transparent. So clear and public pricing, really no lock-in, and you know, we don't have any sort of third-party compatibility related issues. So what does our direct-to-cloud backup capabilities look like? What you see on the left really are the dominant workloads that we are supporting today, the major VM hypervisors, and it's this direct-to-cloud capability that you know, customers like. But we also know that customers need often unique RPO or RTO requirements. So we do offer a optional cloud cache. That's a capability that's included with the product, and its ability to essentially deploy a virtual cache that stores 30 days worth of backup copies on there, but also keeps them in the cloud. And the other things I'll just point out on this piece is, you know, we have integration with VMware Cloud on AWS, or that's VMC. So another essentially workload or way to simplify managing that data protection. And then the other piece I'll point out is we're unique in our ability to manage and store this data across storage tiers in AWS, all the way down to Glacier Deep Archive. And then for DR purposes, I'll go into that in more detail as we move forward. But that's certainly one of the appealing aspects for customers looking to modernize their data center, or perhaps close some of their data centers. Often having DR as a service is a great reason for starting to move forward. So one customer success I'll talk about is Andreessen, and they really were able to you know, transform their data protection. They had rising hardware storage costs, a lot of time-consuming and difficult processes, over 200 different offices, you know, around the world, and so you could see how that might be driving both regional data privacy issues as well as complexity as it relates to managing tape and/or disk-based storage. And so what Drew was able to do was to you know, provide a single solution that a customer is able to use for both remote offices and the data center, and more importantly, you know, offer a improved DR capability and speed through our disaster recovery as a service capabilities. and address some of their data lifecycle challenges through our long-term retention capabilities. Egan, I included this customer in here. Really, they're a 100% virtualized company, and so you would think very far along in terms of their cloud journey, but really still had difficulty managing the backup process, despite being 100% virtualized, and their existing backup product just required a lot of love and care that they didn't want to have to do. They wanted it to be easier, and significant savings in moving to Druva as it relates to maintaining both the backup application and the storage management. They were able to get rid of all of that on-prem hardware and storage, both the physical aspects of it and the management related to it. Regeneron is a great customer story and really talks to the TCO piece, right? And they spoke for us at VMworld in 2019. That occurred here in the US, that is. And they had 20% data growth, hundreds of terabytes that they needed to protect, and multiple tools, right? And so, they had a problem that related to both data protection, but also data management. And so what they looked to Druva to do really was to consolidate these tools and improve their business continuity. But what I wanted to point out here was really how they got to those savings. And what you see was, some of those savings came through a data protection play, which is, okay, can we consolidate down to a single platform? Some of those, and that relates to the management, some of the savings really increased when you talked about, oh, wait, we don't have to maintain additional hardware at other sites for DR. And then finally, when you realize you can get rid of tape and the related pieces for maintaining that long-term retention data, then you start to see an even more significant saving. And so that's really what that path went for there. Druva continues to raise the bar for data protection. And if you think about why our customer is going to decide to change what it is they're doing today, one of the more important reasons is going to be the experience. Right? So first, can you meet my RTOs and my RPO requirements? And the answer is yes, cloud can do that. And then once you move past there, and frankly, that is still a question many customers have, but we have many customers who tell us that A, they never thought cloud could do this, but B, once they're there, how much they love it. And the customer experience is the next step. Like, how do you make my day job easier so that I can move from the tactical things to more strategic things? And so what you see here is just us letting customers speak on our behalf to the value we bring both on the data center side, and one of the other columns you have on here is the cloud apps piece. And so while I haven't talked about this in detail here, this relates to our ability to protect cloud applications like Office 365 or other apps you might be running in the cloud. So what I hope you will walk away with when you think about Druva is three key things. First is the total cost of ownership. It's our ability to drive up to 50% lower costs for customers, right? By lowering the storage cost, by eliminating stranded capacity, eliminating the maintenance costs, and significantly reducing the overhead that's related to the data protection process. The efficiency, right? You can have Druva deployed in your data center environment within 15 minutes. You're always getting new features, and we have some of the highest security certifications in the industry. And then finally, it's easy to adopt, right? It's not a complex customization process, and you don't have a multi-year commitment. So you're able to step on and start seeing for yourself how easy it can be without a lot of additional people needing to be involved. So some next steps that I hope you'll take will be to consider getting a demo. And then hopefully after that, start a trial. And we're always excited to help you assess the possible TCO you might have by switching to cloud-based data protection from Druva. And with that, I will jump over to any Q&A, anything that might have come in.
Yeah, absolutely. A great presentation, Peter. Let's see here. We do have some questions for you from the audience. First one I see here, Dan is asking about the TCO. How is it that Druva is able to offer such a low TCO?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, all of our TCOs are based on customer input, but the things that drive TCO for customers relate to the reduction in on-premises hardware, and often customers have this hardware at multiple sites. So being able to eliminate that piece, eliminating a lot of the effort that's required to manage and upgrade that hardware. Those, I think, are some of the pieces. And then finally, that experience, the change in the user experience, customers qualify really how much time they spend doing different aspects of it. So I'd say that eliminating much or all of that hardware, software, infrastructure and maintenance that you have there, the storage efficiency that we're able to deliver all the way down to kind of that long-term data retention.
Yeah, you make a great point. I bet a bunch of people out there don't take into account the cost of their massively growing, backup infrastructure and everything that it takes to keep that up and running. Let's see, another question here. They're asking, what's the performance of Druva, and can you really meet the data center RPO and RTO objectives? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So the answer is of course, we can. Cloud, for many of our customers, cloud has performed better than their on-premise applications and infrastructure they've been running for data protection today. And we've had that happen across all of sort of the major competitors that happen today, where customers are like, I just recovered a 3 terabyte VM or SQL database backup faster with your platform than I was able to with my competitive platform. So the answer is yes. The assumption that your on-prem, fiber channel connected or however it may be connected infrastructure is going to be faster is false. It really depends on the use case, and often really the limiting factor is not always the so-called network or pipe to the cloud. And as I mentioned, we're often able to solve some of that as well with our cloud cache capability, the ability to offer a hybrid data protection solution in the data center too.
Okay, yeah, that's very insightful. That is indeed possible. Another question here, they're asking about tiering across storage tiers. How does it work, and is it different from AWS?
Yeah, so I talked about long-term retention. We call it intelligent tiering of data. It's targeted at data that you're going to be holding for more than 1 year. And that's our definition of sort of long-term retention data. And in our platform, it's a simple one click to say, yeah, this backup set should be enabled for long-term retention. And we will automatically move that data after 15 days into a Glacier GDA, so Amazon Glacier Deep Archive. And for the sets of data customers enable that, it's like an immediate 30% savings on their storage cost, if you will. And so we're different from, while AWS does offer some tiering capabilities if you're trying to build your own backup solution, we're different for a couple of reasons. One, we move dedupe data and only dedupe data across the storage tiers. Number two, we can manage and move that data all the way to Glacier Deep Archive, whereas I believe today, right now, what Amazon offers is just a Glacier. But I think the more important piece is that we manage that for customers, so there's no egress charges with us for moving the data back and forth. And so ultimately, it's just we're simplifying the experience for you versus trying to build it on your own. We're offering a deeper level of savings by leveraging more of the AWS stack that is taking it to Glacier Deep Archive. And then, as I mentioned, we're only moving the dedupe data, so you're not having these kind of pools of different data that you're trying to move across tiers.
Very nice. I like that. All right. Let's see, another question. I want to make sure we get to this one. Tom is asking, how should he get started with Druva? Can you tell us about, once someone signs up for the trial, kind of what happens after that?
Well, you'll be assigned someone to help you get started with the trial, and we offer, once you're within the product, you have online tutorials and other help you can do to get going. But it's pretty quick and easy to get signed up, and you'll be sort of assigned someone to help you. And as I mentioned, you'll have a period of time. I believe it's 30 days.
Very nice. And so, I mean, once someone signs up, and how quickly could they be backing up their data, you think?
Well, as I said in our presentation, really, customers can get up and running in as little as 15 minutes. And so, it doesn't take long to start doing some trial backup and restore capabilities, say pointing it to some VMs and trying to offload some of the work and see how that works. Try using the tags for creating policies and things like that.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that. Yeah, sounds super easy compared to maybe some traditional backup architectures that people might be used to. So
and I think what I would mention too is that the nice thing is when you say what it takes to get going is we only license on one element, and that's the amount of dedupe storage you consume. So when a customer is using it, they don't have to think like, oh, can I put it out on these workloads, or how many places could I deploy it and what would it cost? There's no charge for the agents or number of licenses you deploy. It's just the backend dedupe storage. So it's just one metric. So customers can really try and use anywhere, knowing that there's not going to be sort of any surprises when they go to try to actually adopt it.
Yeah, that licensing model sounds very appealing. I appreciate you pointing that out. All right. Well, Peter, it looks like that's all the time we have in our live Q&A, but it's been really great having you on the event today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For more information on Druva, of course, check out druva.com and sign up for the trial and give it a try for yourself.
All right. Great presentation. Great presentation from Druva. I brought up a poll question on the screen. It just says, what additional information would you like about the Druva solution? Peter is available to answer questions electronically, and he is going to be doing that. So if you have a question about the Druva solution, how it can help you to better protect your data, accomplish your DR goals, now's the time to go ahead and get those questions in. And like I said, Peter will be answering those electronically and sharing them there with the audience. I see a couple of good questions already came in about what clouds are supported, how long it takes to recover data if you are hit with ransomware. And maybe I should say not if you are hit with ransomware, but when you are hit with ransomware, because it seems to be affecting everyone out there. So we'll be answering those questions electronically. Look for those in the Q&A tab there under next to handouts. And I also want to point out, while you're answering that poll question, you can download the Druva ebook there in the handouts tab. That is the CIO's Guide to Cloud First Data Protection. And very nicely done ebook. Make sure that you check that out, download it, and peruse it after the event. All right, so thank you everyone who answered the poll question. It's now time to move on to our next presentation.
And now I'm excited to introduce our next presenter. That is Shilpi Srivastava, Director of Product Marketing of Cloud Solutions at Pure Storage. Take it away, Shilpi.
Thank you, David. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our 20-minute webinar today. This is Shilpi Srivastava from Pure Storage. I lead product marketing for our cloud solutions here. In the next 20 minutes, I kind of want to just cover a little bit around the challenges we're seeing in the industry as more and more enterprises move towards hybrid cloud and adopting multiple different cloud technologies, and how Pure functions on the data layer to help bridge some of these differences to enable a unified hybrid cloud. Pure's been around for the last 10 years, and for the last 6 years, we've led the Gartner's Magic Quadrant for all-flash storage arrays or primary storage, with over 7,000 customers at Pure today, we've had the opportunity to see the enterprise cloud strategy really evolve over the last several years. On one hand, we see companies that have started on premises and have built their enterprise workloads in the data centers, now moving towards a more hybrid cloud environment where there's some applications on premises, some in the cloud through SaaS applications, leveraging PaaS services, platform as a service on premises or in the cloud. And this is really from a goal to get the best of both worlds. On one hand, there is the security and the reliability that enterprises are used to on premises. While on the other hand, public cloud seems to be has grown to become a very agile and scalable environment. And so the goal with hybrid cloud is really to get the best of these worlds. And not only have we seen this shift on premises, but also when you look at companies that grew and were built in the cloud. We have a lot of vendors that started on public cloud services, building their workloads on public cloud infrastructure. And a lot of these are SaaS providers. As they've scaled and as these enterprises have matured, we also see a shift among those companies towards a hybrid cloud environment, where they now find the value in having some of their workloads and applications running on premises while still having some in the cloud. And as we see this shift from both directions, there's also becoming popular the concept of hybrid applications. So these would be applications that on a high level, we could say run across on-premises and public cloud environments. What they really are is, a portion of your applications running on premises, portion of the applications running in the cloud, but they're compatible in a way that they're able to really benefit from the capabilities of on-premises and public cloud infrastructure environments to provide a holistic, innovative platform for application development and delivery. However, as some of you might have gone through this, conceptually it's great to be able to get the best of both worlds, have some applications on premises, some in the cloud, build use cases where you're moving applications between multiple different cloud environments. But this is not an easy undertaking because public cloud and on-premises environments today are not the same. They look very different. And there is really a divide between these environments. We call it the cloud divide here at Pure. And this divide really starts at the application layer, where there are different application architectures on premises and in the cloud. On premises, we've seen traditionally packaged applications tied directly to your backend hardware or packaged applications on VMs. While on the other hand, public cloud applications were built to be more web scale, and many of them are cloud native and container-based applications. Management and consumption experiences are very different on traditional legacy on-premises environments versus public cloud environments. So on-prem, you would have CapEx models, which are more popular. There's manual management. While in the cloud, you don't have dedicated hardware is not the way you do things in the cloud. It's API everything. You have on-demand consumption models, which are more flexible and give you more agility. The biggest difference that we see is in the storage layer, and we'll get into this in a few minutes. But in general, on-prem storage environments are built for dedicated storage arrays for applications traditionally. They're very high in reliability. We see rich storage features. In the cloud, you can benefit from shared storage services, simple and scalable storage. And fortunately for us, we do see these worlds coming together, especially on the application architectures layer, where we have Kubernetes orchestration and management tools, which allow you to build similar application architectures on premises and the cloud. On the consumption experience, we do today some of the newer storage vendors. We do have pay-as-you-go and very flexible consumption models on premises. So we do see some of these gaps being filled. And so we at Pure wanted to figure what can we do on the storage layer to allow for a common data or a common storage layer with common data services on-premises and in the cloud. Because when you start to combine your on-prem and your public cloud environments, the data layer can really make or break your hybrid cloud strategy, because that is what can enable or hinder application mobility due to differences in these layers on-premises and in the cloud. And so we figured that in order to really allow for application compatibility and seamless migration and help our customers innovate at speed, we wanted to bridge that gap on the storage layer so that you get the same APIs, you can get a common shared data services layer, no matter where your applications live. With that goal, Pure launched its cloud data services a couple of years ago with Cloud Snap technology and Cloud Block Store technology. I'll go a little bit into each of these technologies. Pure's on-premises cloud data infrastructure and cloud data services for hyperscaler environments are blended together through our common data storage layer as well as a consumption experience through Pure as a service. Also on the management front, we've tried to make sure that customers have a consistent management experience on premises and the cloud, as well as a single user interface where you can go in and monitor your storage on premises and the cloud. Let's start with Cloud Snap. Cloud Snap was built to allow for easy data protection through the flash array, our block storage hardware on premises. Cloud Snap provides simple automatic backups for snapshots. It takes snapshots of data on premises and then helps you define a hyperscaler environment to store these backups. This is built into the flash array. So if you're using flash array today, this capability is built in. These snapshots are portable in nature. So we make use of a new snapshot technology with Cloud Snap, which basically encapsulates all the snapshot metadata inside the snapshot itself. This enables customers to move snapshots and maintain snapshots outside of the flash array itself. The goal with Cloud Snap and our portable snapshots was to help our customers get higher levels of data efficiency. And so these snapshots are incremental in nature. They're space saving, making replicating them very fast and cost effective. Today, we allow for replication of snapshots to AWS S3 buckets, as well as Azure Blob on the Microsoft Azure Cloud. And when you combine Cloud Snap with Cloud Block Store, which we'll get into in just a minute, this really opens up to new use cases beyond cloud backups itself. Combined with Cloud Block Store, this allows for easy migration of applications in case of a DR scenario or disaster recovery scenario, for example. Coming to management, the goal with everything at Pure is to make it simple and seamless for the customer. And so that's what we've done with Cloud Snap. We've made the management available through Pure One. Pure One is our cloud data management interface. Pure One has a new snapshot catalog, which gives you a single view of all your snapshots in your different private and public cloud environments that we support today. I did allude to earlier about how the storage itself is so different on premises and in the public cloud environments. And so just digging a little bit deeper into it, since our goal with our cloud data services was to not only allow for easy snapshot mobility and data mobility, but also help with application mobility by giving you a consistent storage layer on premises and the cloud. The key differences that we see in on-premises and public cloud infrastructure layers today are, firstly, there's different resiliency models. On premises, we have highly reliable arrays. We have built-in snapshots and DR capabilities. In the public cloud environments, we see very high durability. Everything is globally replicated, but lower availability in many cases. Efficiency models also are very different on premises and in the cloud. On premises, we have Pure, actually, we pride ourselves in having one of the industry's leading data efficiency ratios as a result of the deduplication, compression, and thin provisioning capabilities we offer on flash array today. In the cloud, you buy capacity and performance separately. When you're buying storage on the cloud, you're paying for performance or you're paying for reliability, which on premises, you would take for granted as being part of the infrastructure you buy. And there's also, you see, thick provisioning in the cloud. And so that's another gap that we wanted to fulfill with the cloud data services. And lastly, when you have two different storage backends on two different sides, the APIs are going to be different. And that makes application mobility difficult because now when you move your application, you need to write them to different APIs. And this is a very common hybrid or multi-cloud challenge that you would face when moving applications. So with Cloud Block Store, we've tried to bridge some of these gaps. Now, what is Cloud Block Store? Cloud Block Store, we call it industrial strength block storage in the cloud. Well, what it really is we've taken the Purity software that runs on flash array on premises today and made this available to run on AWS cloud. Going a little bit more into the capabilities. Now, the goal with Cloud Block Store was to give you high reliability and efficiency on premises, high reliability and efficiency in the cloud as you have on premises, to give you hybrid mobility and data protection capabilities, as well as consistent APIs and automation. This is 100% software. It deploys instantly as a virtual appliance in the customer's VPC. And you can define this to run as long as needed. It provides for consistent APIs. So when you're running applications on Cloud Block Store on the AWS cloud today, your application is talking to the same APIs as it would on flash array on premises. We've brought in all of the efficiencies through deduplication, compression, and thin provisioning. Reliability and security was also priority number one. So we've brought in our on-prem capabilities of async replication, active synchronous replication with active cluster, the non-disruptive upgrades technology, and also made sure that you have the data at rest encryption, which is always on, so your data is always secure. Cloud Block Store was built for hybrid cloud environments as priority one, and so it makes data migration bidirectionally very easy through our asynchronous replication as well as Cloud Snap technology. And the consumption model. So if you're familiar with Pure Storage, we've for some time had a pay-as-you-go consumption capability on premises, previously known as ES2 or Evergreen Storage Subscription. We have now extended this into a unified Pure as a service experience, which would allow you to extend your on-prem licenses to your public cloud infrastructure as well. And of course, as I walk through some of the capabilities, just bringing into light some of the new capabilities that Cloud Block Store brings to the cloud environment, in addition to allowing for the easy hybrid mobility. Cloud Block Store was built and architected to combine reliability and performance in one. We have a dual controller architecture, which provides high availability within a single availability zone on AWS today. We do have active cluster to allow for HA between two availability zones on AWS cloud. The data efficiency models I spoke about. We've also brought in instance space saving snapshot capabilities that we have on premises, which our customers have come to love and benefit from the efficiencies, and the always encrypted, always on data security capabilities. I next want to talk about some of the use cases this enables. And very quickly, I'll just go through some of these use cases. With our asynchronous replication technology and through Pure's amazing integrations with the vVols environments on VMware on premises, as you look to migrate VM-based applications to the AWS cloud, all you have to do now is look into application replication and application migration. On the data layer, we do all the heavy lifting by giving you the capability to very easily migrate vVols volumes from flash array into Cloud Block Store and vice versa. If you have a container-based environment through Pure Service Orchestrator, which is delivered through our CSI plugin today, Pure has very seamless integrations into Kubernetes and other container orchestration environments on premises. These extend again seamlessly into Cloud Block Store for AWS when you're migrating applications to AWS. As I mentioned earlier, because the APIs on FlashArray and Cloud Block Store are the same, application migration becomes very easy. So when you're moving your container app, for example, you use the same storage scripts. There is no need to re-architect and rewrite these storage scripts to redefine the APIs. So this was the application lift and shift scenario where you can migrate VM-based or container-based applications between your private and public cloud environments. The next use case that I want to talk about is leveraging AWS as a disaster recovery target. If you have FlashArray on premises in your data center as a primary site, you can now set up Cloud Block Store for AWS as your disaster recovery site. The way this would work is that you would make use of our asynchronous replication technology to replicate data between your on-prem and public cloud block store instances. Or you can also make use of CloudSnap technology to efficiently migrate snapshots of data to Amazon S3 buckets. This data can then be recovered into Cloud Block Store so that your applications can run on the AWS cloud. So now if there's a disaster and your primary site goes down for any reason, your application would fail over to the disaster recovery site in AWS using Cloud Block Store. Once the disaster on premises has been resolved, you can now fail back your applications to your primary site in your data center. This gives enterprises a lot of flexibility in terms of not having to maintain a secondary data center and adding efficiencies through that. Another popular use case we see with Cloud Block Store is leveraging AWS for dev and test while you have production running on premises on FlashArray. Because Cloud Block Store uses instant space-saving snapshots that we offer on FlashArray on premises, it is now very efficient to create and build multiple build environments for your developers and testers to work on. We have a customer in Nu Skin today who's using Cloud Block Store for AWS for dev and test. And by means of our snapshotting technology, they're able to get a data reduction ratio of 80:1. So that can really help you spin up dev environments quickly. So it's helpful in terms of speed, but also a lot in terms of efficiencies. Here's an example just displaying how you can very easily set up dev test on cloud, production on-prem, if you're building on using containers on Kubernetes or any other container orchestration tools. As I previously mentioned, with Cloud Block Store, we've brought in our active cluster technology to the cloud environments. So now you can have active synchronous replication between two availability zones on AWS. What this means is that your tier 1 or business critical applications can now get another level of availability such that in case for any reason an availability zone becomes unavailable, your application would transparently fail over to a second availability zone where you have Cloud Block Store set up. So this becomes any kind of availability zones going down kind of situation, very seamless to your applications. And this really comes in handy when you're running tier 1 or mission critical workloads in the cloud. We spoke about a few different use cases of Cloud Block Store. We also spoke about CloudSnap and how that can help with efficient data backups or archivals, as well as data mobility. I just wanted to quickly summarize these use cases that we are enabling enterprises to unlock. With Pure's cloud data services, our customers are now able to very efficiently and in a very simple way use the cloud for backups as a disaster recovery target, leverage the cloud for dev test in a very efficient manner, and also makes migration of applications seamless. And all this with a common monitoring plane through the Pure One management user interface that we have. So you can log into a single user interface and see all of your volumes on-prem, all of your volumes in the cloud. Lastly, when it comes to consumption model, we've also extended our existing Pure as a Service, pay-as-you-go consumption model that we've had on premises for some time now to the Cloud Block Store for AWS environment. If you're using Pure as a Service consumption on premises today, this can be, you can use that license key and extend that license to Cloud Block Store for AWS environments today. And of course, you can also create a brand new Pure as a Service license for your cloud environment without having anything on-prem. This really gives you the flexibility to move any portion of your workloads or run any amount of data in any cloud at a given point of time. That really de-risks your cloud strategy, because now if you're looking to test the cloud out or move certain workloads to the cloud, It doesn't have to be a massive re-architecture effort where you're migrating a bunch load of data into the cloud. You can start small and you can scale. You can retrieve data back. A lot of flexibility built into this format. With that, I would love to take some questions now. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me through these last 20 minutes.
All right, great presentation. Thank you so much, Shilpi. We are going to do some Q&A now, and while we do that, I've just brought up this poll question. What additional information would you like about the Pure Storage solution? Shilpi, are you there?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for being on. A great presentation. I learned a lot. Let's see, we do have some questions for you. So the first one that came in, they're asking about which AWS components does Cloud Block Store use in the back end?
That's a great question. Thanks for that, whoever asked that question. So Cloud Block Store is architected in a way that it uses multiple different cloud backend resources. So we make use of a combination of Amazon EBS, which is their block storage volumes, as we use the IO1s for caching. So you get the high you get the high writing speeds, and we also make use of a bunch of EC2 instances. We can probably share through the PDF handout a diagram of the architecture, but we make use of a bunch of EC2 instances and instance stores to give you a high read performance as well as the write performance which you get with EBS. Everything is then backed up into Amazon S3. As you know, Amazon S3 is known for its very high durability. You get the 11 nines of durability. And so we've kind of combined all of the best, highest performing and highest durability AWS backend resources to give customers the holistic, high performance, high reliability storage array that like you would see on premises with Pure Flash Array.
Got it. Okay, yeah, multiple EBS instances and S3. Very interesting. Okay, let's see, next question they're asking, how do I buy Cloud Snap?
So Cloud Snap is actually built into the Flash Array, Pure Storage Flash Arrays. If you are using Flash Array on premises in your data center, Cloud Snap is available to you automatically. So it is built in. We don't charge additionally for that. All you need to do is then define Amazon S3 as your backup target or Azure Blob as your backup target.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Another question, I'm sure you probably heard this one before. What kind of dedupe and data reduction ratios can I expect to get with Cloud Block Store?
Yes, that's a great question again. So as I mentioned during the presentation, Cloud Block Store is basically our on-prem software from Flash that runs on Flash Array. It's been customized to the AWS environment because it's available on AWS today. So you would get similar data reduction ratios like you get on premises with Flash Array today. Now, depending on what application you're running, we see a very wide range of data reduction ratios. But Pure, through its deduplication, thin provisioning, and compression, when you combine all of these, we've tracked online the total data efficiencies that our arrays are seeing today, and we actually track them in real time. We are averaging in total data efficiencies about 10:1. And then, this would vary, of course, depending on amount of data application that you're running.
Got it. Okay. Very nice. Another question here. Do you integrate with on-prem Kubernetes vendors?
Absolutely, yes. So we do see a huge shift towards cloud-native application architectures, whether that's on Kubernetes or any other container orchestration tools. We do have integration. So I mentioned during the presentation that we have Pure Service Orchestrator, which is our container integration software delivered through the CSI plugin today. On premises, we are validated with PKS, So VMware's PKS Enterprise version 1.4 today. We are PKS partner ready as well. We do have a reference architecture with Red Hat OpenShift. So we have customers who want to consume their container storage through a platform as a service offering. And so we do have the integration with vendors such as OpenShift. We have Rancher integrations for upstream Kubernetes deployment. And so we've really, and since we have the CSI plugin, we integrate with all with Kubernetes, Docker Swarm, D2IQ, whatever container orchestration you're using.
Okay, yeah, lots of options there. And then probably last question we have time for, that is, do you have any plans to integrate with other public cloud vendors in the future?
So today, Cloud Block Store is available on AWS, and we have Cloud Snap available to back up on AWS as well as Microsoft Azure. So Cloud Block Store for AWS is Pure's first step towards the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud environments. And yes, we do have plans to extend into other cloud vendors as well. So yes, stay tuned.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, it's been great having you on the event today. Thank you so much for your presentation, Shilpi.
Thanks a lot, David. Appreciate everyone's time. And if you want to learn more about Pure Storage, please go on to purestorage.com. We have TCO tools that can help you measure assess your TCO improvements with Cloud Block Store versus a native AWS, and we have a bunch of information out there about our integrations. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, thank you. And Shilpi's also made her slides available for download there in the Handouts tab. If you go there, you can download the full slide deck that she used in her presentation, so make sure you check that out. All right, thank you for answering the poll. It's now time for our first prize giveaway. We have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Sabrina Gratch from North Carolina. Congratulations, Sabrina Gratch from North Carolina. We've got 2 more gift cards to give away, so make sure you stay tuned for those prize drawings. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our next presenter on today's EcoCast. I'm excited to welcome Spencer Sells, Senior Director of Cloud Data Services at NetApp. Spencer, are you there?
I'm here, David. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes, sir. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much. A quick introduction in case you don't know who NetApp or who I am. It's been my pleasure to be in the enterprise storage and cloud storage space for around 25 years now, which I guess just makes me old. But NetApp is actually even a longer pedigree. NetApp is a worldwide leader in storage and data management. We've been in existence for 28 years. And we're fortunate enough to be trusted by large and small organizations around the world for decades. And we don't take that lightly. We put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we build software and hardware that is reliable. And we've taken that and brought it into the cloud, and that's exactly what I want to talk to you about today. I do have colleagues who will be answering questions on the Q&A, so please feel free to submit questions on that. And let's take it away. This is not me, but this is how I feel some days, and certainly how I felt when I first started working in cloud. I have been doing storage and data management for a couple decades, and then I hit this new area where there's some new acronyms and new concepts, and realized you may be like that as well. I talk to customers on a weekly basis where they've been running IT for decades. It is well run on premises. They understand how to keep the applications up, how to manage for cost and security and compliance. And then along comes cloud, and there's new things to learn, confusion, and frankly, it can be a little scary at times as well. Well, the nice thing is we have your back. We are not new to cloud storage. In fact, we started working in cloud storage about when that term was brand new, and we're fortunate enough to be the leader in cloud on premises, but now also in the large public cloud. Some on the call today have talked about how they've had new capabilities into the cloud. Well, we started in 2013, and in 2014 we went generally available with our first instantiation, which is our flagship operating system ONTAP, that is running in AWS or now Azure or Google as well. So we're not new. We've been doing this generally available for 5 years now. We've learned a lot along the way, and we've enhanced it. And the good news for you, if this cloud area may seem confusing and not sure where to start, we've made the transition. We can help you, and you can count on us. A couple examples of customers who we've been working with, and starting on the left there, Cardinal Health is a large company, and their business goal was to get out of data centers and to redeploy into public clouds. And they went down the path of AWS. And then a couple of years ago, AWS, or really Amazon, stated that they would like to do a little more in healthcare. And Cardinal Health didn't like that. And so now Cardinal Health has moved is moving most of their assets into the Google Cloud. And so we've worked with them on Amazon and AWS, as well as in Google Cloud, so that they can reduce their data center footprint and take advantage of innovation in the public cloud. And that includes critical applications like SAP, so revenue critical, mission critical applications. In addition, we've been working with customers such as McKesson. And McKesson is one that you may know delivers about a third of all medication in North America. But they are a global operation. And for them, customer success and service time and cost reduction are critical. And so we've been working with McKesson to move their workloads into the public cloud. Now, they chose Azure. Our goal, we see, is to provide the opportunity for these customers to choose the cloud of their choice and to make changes when they want to. The one on the far right there, you may not know, WuXi Nextcode is a large genomic research organization. They have data sets of genomic profiles, and their mission is to enable you to walk into a healthcare provider and to get a genomic profile of you within 45 minutes so that they can provide you the most precise diagnosis and treatment. They tried using Amazon resources on their own. Their jobs timed out after 3.5 days. Using our cloud storage services, they were able to complete the job in 45 minutes, and they were also able to dramatically reduce their compute they used from around 50 EC2 instances to 15 EC2 instances. So instead of paying for 50 EC2 instances for 3.5 days before the job failed, they paid for 15 for 45 minutes. So these are just sample customers, a small subset that we've been working with. So let's figure out for you and where you may want to start your journey. And so here's a couple options and things to think about. On that left-hand side, many of the infrastructure administrators and storage administrators I work with first want to extend into the public cloud, and that could be using the public cloud as backup, using it as disaster recovery, dev test, or extending into the public cloud for the geographical regions. So we have customers running revenue critical customer interactions in the public cloud using our storage. And we can help them reduce their public cloud spend and help them reduce their data center spend. On the right-hand side, we've gone past that. So as others had said, this is a new technology. Well, that was 5 years old. We were been delivering block and other services. We now deliver cloud services natively into Azure and Google and into AWS as well, helping you get into the cloud faster with much more important and demanding workloads. So let's talk about that. You see here, we've been working with Azure, Google, and AWS for over 6 years. And we have 2 instantiations of these services. We will let you run a virtual machine that you can pay for as you go by the hour, or you can have a subscription. You pick the cloud, you run it in a common way. You can get data into and out of it and on premises. And it's a natural extension into what you've been doing on premises. We call that Cloud Volumes ONTAP, and I'll talk more about that in the next couple of slides. But we went beyond that a couple of years ago in delivering a true cloud storage service. You consume volumes. You don't have any infrastructure to run, any virtual machines to run. And in fact, with Azure, think of it as an OEM. We essentially have become the NAS services for Azure. They call it Azure NetApp Files. For Google, it is a very tight resale, and in AWS, we are a marketplace offering. But in each of these clouds, we have deep joint engineering we've been doing for the last 6 years, and then allowing customers to move simple file services for Windows or Linux applications, but also able to do Kubernetes and containers, high-performance compute, genomics, SAP, and a variety of applications. All right. Enough of that marketing. Let's get right into more of the details of it. So I mentioned one way of operating is Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So this takes that ONTAP operating system that we've been enhancing for 28 years, and you choose the cloud you want to run it in, AWS, Azure, or Google. You choose the region, and you can decide if you want to run it in a single instance or an HA mode. You can get it up and running in about 25 minutes. In any of those clouds in the world. We also are in case you're eligible, some of the government clouds and some of the clouds only usable by the intelligence agencies. Why would you want to do this? Well, built-in space sufficiency. So compared to what you find in the cloud, we reduce your cost. So let's say you have a 10 terabyte data set. Typically, we use deduplication and compression and can get that down to 2 terabytes or so. So even though you're paying us for Cloud Volumes ONTAP licensing, we tend to reduce your overall cloud spend. But on top of that, we have instant snapshots to improve your resiliency. We have the HA version, so you can withstand an availability zone impact. We have point-in-time instant copies and clones that only keep track of changed new writes, so they are space efficient as well. But that allows you to accelerate your development. By the way, that's where we were 5 years ago. We've enhanced that now with the ability to cache into the cloud from on-premises or from cloud onto on-premises. We can also allow you to tier your data in the cloud. So let's say it's a disaster recovery. Send a copy of the data into the cloud and tier it as fast as you can to the object store to further reduce your cost. We also have added, most recently, a backup to object store. So we take those NetApp and ONTAP space-efficient snapshots and give you the option to backing that up into the local object store. So we have thousands of customers using this already in any of the 3 clouds for disaster recovery, dev test, remote office, branch office consolidation, web front ends, as well as mission-critical, revenue-critical applications. So 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, we started on the next versions of this, which is a true cloud service. So the virtual machine fits very nicely into a style where I have infrastructure I want to manage and I want to extend into the cloud. But we find more and more of our customers want to run high-performance production applications in the cloud, and they don't want infrastructure to manage. Think of it as moving at the PaaS layer. You can consume just volumes, and you can get a volume running in up to 100 terabytes in about 8 to 10 seconds, and I'll show you that. This is for high-performance production applications like HANA, where we are certified, but we also have customers using Home Directory. And the commonality is wanting that PaaS service, the simplicity, the ability to have performance that can vary from the highest performance to the lowest performance. And in addition, it is more cost-effective than other native storage services. So it's faster, it's simple to use, it's more cost-effective, and it's more powerful as well. All right, we'll have to go without the demo. I very, very much apologize. Here's what I will show you or tell you about, and you can see it thankfully on cloud.netapp.com. With the Cloud Volume Service, you do not need to manage any infrastructure. What you do is you go to either the native Azure console or the Azure portal or the Google console or AWS. You select a volume. It could be NFS, it can be SMB, it can be multi-protocol at the same time. In NFS, we support NFS v3 and 4.1. SMB, we support 2x, 3x, but we usually see 3 and 3.1. And then you select the performance. And that performance, by the way, is volume specific and volume independent, meaning I can have a volume running at the standard performance and a different volume running at the extreme. And I can change it as well. I can, let's say it's a financial data services set. I can have it when I need it for the 3 days or the 1 week of the quarter, having the highest performance that I need, up to 128 megabytes per second per terabyte. And if I don't need that performance, well, there's just an API call or a GUI click, and I can drive it down to the standard performance. What that does is it saves me a tremendous amount of money. And this is something that's not possible with other native cloud services, as you might get from AWS or Google themselves. So I get the ability to select the performance, the ability to change it on the fly, and I get the NetApp capabilities for instant in-time snapshots, as well as the ability to create a copy of the volume. And again, as I mentioned, this is a native Azure service called Azure NetApp Files, or on Google, it's called Cloud Volume Service for Google, but launched by Google in the Google portal. In the case of Azure, Google, sold by those organizations and supported by those organizations. Let me keep going now with the slide set. So where to get started in the cloud? We have a couple different ways, as I mentioned. You can extend into the cloud using our virtual machine. You choose the one you want with the cloud of your choice, or you can have a true cloud service, which is that Cloud Volume Service or Azure NetApp Files. Now we've gone beyond that. On the bottom right, you see the ability to manage the entire infrastructure. This is service and compute and container, and through server, through network, through storage, not just NetApp storage. This helps with several things. How do I understand the topology of my application, be it in the cloud or on premises? How do I keep a service up and running and fend off service outage? How do I manage the infrastructure so if there is an issue, I can get to root cause much faster by knowing is it the service or the server or the compute or the storage layer? And how do I reduce my cost? So for example, we NetApp are using this to manage our fleet of several thousand AWS and Google and Azure EC2 or virtual machine instances, as well as on-premises VMware, OpenStack, and Hyper-V. So we are constantly monitoring so that we can reduce our spend, but also maintaining our services so that we can ensure that our engineers and our customers are up and running. And on that bottom left, we certainly work with Kubernetes and container infrastructure such as PKS and OpenShift and Rancher and others. We have a for-free storage automation that uses the CSI APIs called Trident. In addition, we have a Kubernetes management server or service that allows a customer to get up and running in Kubernetes in a matter of seconds and just a few clicks to be able to deploy a well-known package on premises or in the cloud of their choice. So we've taken all of that and we've pivoted the company. So we're delivering storage, persistent storage in the cloud of your choice as a VM or as a service. And now we're bringing that back and delivering these services on premises so that you can get those Cloud Volume Service on premises. You get the Kubernetes services on premises as well, so that your on-premises cloud is simply just a fourth public cloud. You can choose what you want and run in a common way on premises. Wrapping up here, I know I'm getting short on time. Again, going back to our pedigree, we are an enterprise class cloud storage system company. We're delivering hardware and software as well as the management tools. We do not take the trust our customers put in ourselves lightly. We are fortunate enough to be in the top organizations in their use of public cloud. If we brought on-premises as well, we would bring those up to the top 10 on each of these categories. If you want to learn more and see the real demo working, and again, I apologize, go to cloud.netapp.com. That is how you can get free trials. When we get free credits for AWS, for example, we pass those on to our customers as well, so that we'd be happy to get you a chance to get up and running in the cloud of your choice, in the style of your choice. go to cloud.netapp.com and take it from there.
All right, great presentation, Spencer. Thank you very much. Let's bring up a poll question, and I'll just leave this up while we do some Q&A. What additional information would you like about the NetApp solution? And let's see, first question that came in here, they're asking, did I hear that you have a native backup product for Azure NetApp files?
What I said is we have a native backup for Cloud Volumes ONTAP. That's a virtual machine, and that runs in AWS or Google or Azure. The backup is already GA in AWS, coming to the others soon, and in coming to Azure NetApp files in the very near future. And what that does is it will take that NetApp space-efficient snapshot and send it to Azure blobs. If you would like to learn more and to be able to try it out, drop me an email.
Okay, excellent. Another question here, they're asking, do I have to have a NetApp array on premises to use NetApp Cloud?
Great answer, or great question. No, and in fact, we're finding an ever-increasing number of our customers are just cloud customers. And the reason is the availability, the cost reductions, the simplicity that we offer. And I forgot to mention on that Cloud Volume Service, we offer an SLA. So the storage, the clouds themselves will not, but for Cloud Volume Service for AWS, for example, we offer an SLA, 4 nines availability, 8 nines of durability. So where Amazon and others don't offer that, we will provide that. And that's bringing a lot of customers to us who do not use NetApp on premises.
Okay, very interesting. A follow-up question. They're saying, so the backup utilizes snapdiff in the background for Azure NetApp files?
That's correct. So that is clearly someone who knows our technology. I will translate that to you. For 27 years, we've had snapshots. Snapshots don't make copies. We just keep track of the new writes, so they're point-in-time references. And we allow those to stay in the volume, and we have replication tools to get that to another ONTAP endpoint. So we certainly can do that into the cloud or from the cloud or between clouds. We offer the ability to get that into an object store, and that's what that backup service is. And that is exactly what we will make use of to allow those space-efficient backups into that object store.
Okay, very nice. Another question. What's been the most popular, use case for people leveraging NetApp Cloud? Is it DR? Is it protecting AWS? Or what has it been? What have you seen?
Great question. So with the Cloud Volumes ONTAP, we see that used more by infrastructure administrators. Starting out 5 years ago, it was DR and moving Tier 2 and Tier 3 applications. We now see a growing number of Tier 1 applications using our high availability to survive availability zone incidences. So we're seeing applications such as databases and the web front end for systems of engagement. On the Cloud Volume Service and Azure NetApp files, that is newer. Those have been GA just for the last year, and we're seeing there a production primary application. That's SAP, that's other databases like Oracle and SQL, but we're also seeing HPC applications, EDA, chip design. So these are applications that customers at first thought they couldn't move to the public cloud because there were no SLAs, or they didn't provide the performance or the cost or the data management capabilities. But now that we're providing that, we're seeing these Tier 1 applications make use of those services.
Okay, very nice. Well, so the best thing for people to do to get started is you go to cloud.netapp.com and sign up for the free trial. Is that right?
That's correct. And there you can also find performance benchmarks. We make it public. Our pricing is public. We have a chat function if you want to have a follow-up, and my team would be happy to follow up with you. But we always suggest that you go try it for yourself, and hopefully you'll be impressed with what you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always love the free trials. It's a great, easy way to get started. Spencer, I think that's all the time we have for Q&A. I put one more technical question for you there in the questions box under your name. Great presentation again. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, David, and thank you everyone for the listeners, and I'll stay checking the Q&A here for a little bit.
And for more information, of course, check out the trial over at cloud.netapp.com. And with that, it is time for our next prize drawing. We have another Amazon $500 gift card, and that is going out to John Salzer from North Carolina. Congratulations, John Salzer from North Carolina. One more prize to give away on the event today still, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Steve Siegel, Head of Product Marketing at Clumio. Steve, are you there?
I am here, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, we're delighted to have you. First time having Clumio on our event, so thank you so much for joining us. Take it away.
Great, excellent. I'm going to talk to you today about our data protection service. We call it Simple, Secure, and Scalable Authentic Data Protection, the Authentic Data Protection Service that you deserve. As mentioned, I'm Steve Siegel. I'm the Head of Product Marketing at Clumio, and I'm going to take you through how we address data protection as a part, help customers address data protection as part of their cloud strategy with Clumio. So let's go back and we'll recap a little bit of history. Some of the folks earlier in the presentations touched on some of this. If you look at it today, and this trend started even before the turn of the millennia, believe it or not, you had a lot of different applications, a lot of cloud-based technologies getting deployed in the data center. That's not new. That's been going on for quite some time. But then certainly what you saw happening over time is that some of those applications that were important to the business but maybe not core competencies, there started to be the SaaS applications that popped up. And the only comment I'll make on this slide is, even though I show a couple of exemplary icons here for companies that are very well known in the SaaS space, the reality is if you go and talk to your customers and look at your IT folks, basically what you're going to find is there's not a half a dozen here like it shows on the slide. There are literally hundreds. 250 is what we hear as an average number. I've heard anything upwards of 700 or 800 different SaaS applications, sometimes not always beknownst to IT. The other thread here has certainly been that as the cloud has formed and matured and has gotten better and better services for some of those important applications that want to kind of take advantage of the cloud and in its performance and scale and cost efficiency, some people are re-architecting their apps either in infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. And so in this case, you might see dozens of applications, but in certain cases, particularly, we have some of our customers who literally have thousands of AWS accounts that they're using to manage those applications. The other element, of course, and it was alluded to earlier today, is that there's some certain applications, be they legacy, could be even as far back as old mainframe stuff, different applications that need to be located, kind of where the action is. Some of those are staying on-prem. And so the result of this is that there's what we call data dispersion. The data is everywhere. The data needs to be where it's either being collected, where it needs to be analyzed, or used to drive, monetization of data, better customer experiences, AI applications, and that kind of thing. Because this data is really everywhere, when you flip and look to the need to go ahead and protect that data, it creates some significant challenges. And that was really the genesis of Clumio. So if you haven't heard of us, who are we? We are Clumio. We are a secure backup as a service for the enterprise. Our goal is to protect your data no matter where it resides. And our goal and strategy here is, instead of building better backup faster, per se, or helping you as a customer build better backup faster, our goal is for you not to have to build it at all. We know that data needs to be where the action is. Our goal is to make it as simple and easy as possible for you to be able to protect your data And we'll give you some, we're going to lay some context here of the challenges you're likely facing in some of the existing backup tools that you've been working with. And then we're going to click in and show you how we address those elements of complexity. So again, here, if you look at this backup evolution, started a long time ago. There's a lot of on-prem legacy backup providers that are out there. You have to deal with a lot of complexity of management, costs, managing hardware, software, capacity planning, et cetera, et cetera. And when you could contain that all within the data center, it wasn't easy, it still isn't, but it was manageable. But now as you look at it, there's been an expansion. There have been vendors out there doing cloud native endpoint backup. They got the piece of people want to procure as a service, but a lot of the common issues that you still see in the cloud, they're issues and surprises that customers have to deal with cloud bills, egress charges, et cetera, et cetera. And the simplicity and isn't really there to the level that the cloud promises. As well, later on, there's actually some what we call these on-prem newer backup solutions. They often have appliances. They deal with some of the complexity and by integrating hardware and software, and it helps improve employment or deployment rather. But they're really not taking full advantage of the cloud, and we'll show you that in a bit more detail. And then, of course, there's Clumio. We are 100% cloud native. We are fully built in the cloud. We are a single service. With us, you get predictable costs, no surprises of cloud bills, that kind of thing. We actually do, if there are any issues, we do the diagnostics, we log tickets, et cetera, et cetera. Customers do not have to capacity plan, do any type of designing, upgrading, patching, none of that. So let's get to some of the specifics and channel into what people are likely experiencing. Again, in the on-prem world, you're dealing with managing all of this complexity, all the levels of hardware and software and firmware, multiple sites, et cetera, et cetera. And when you go look at that model, and now with this expansion into SaaS, into multi-flavors of cloud, right, you have to take those solutions and look at them and multiply their instances by the number of data centers and remote sites you have, by the number of cloud apps that you have, which is probably dozens, and the number of SaaS apps, which is probably hundreds. The complexity is virtually impossible to deal with. It really has gotten exponentially worse. Now, if we talk about these on-prem newer backup solutions, again, the integration of hardware, software as an appliance, that does make it easier, but at the same, from a point of view of deployment. But from the point of view, archiving to the cloud as a third tier and as a tape replacement really isn't taking full advantage of the cloud. And again, there's still levels of complexity to deal with, particularly as you deal with the issue of this explosion of the number of sites and applications in the cloud and in SaaS. Now, the market is not standing still, and these vendors are no different. And so a lot of what some of these vendors are doing, right, they have some level of capability to do what we call a spillover backup for certain critical files. They might, offer to back them up in S3 buckets. But a lot of what you really see happening in the name of keeping similar tools and quote unquote taking advantage of the cloud, right, is taking those same backup applications and running them in the cloud. Often they have to run them 24/7, and there's a reason why. So one reason why is that software is built for servers, not for the cloud. If it's going to run 24/7, it's very expensive, point one. And supporting point of that is we've seen customers who tell us that the incremental cost of that in this case, Amazon accounts could be an extra $8,000 to $10,000. That, by the way, is very difficult to track back to the service that's actually using it. The other element is that, when you go into that environment, this cloud retrofit strategy often doesn't have the capability to do source ID dupe. So those data migration charges and elements are certainly another cost consideration, right? And again, at the end of the day, the customer is still managing all this complexity. Even if you're using a common set of tools, you have two different stacks, on-prem, on your appliances, and then also in the cloud. And the result of this is you're really not taking advantage of the cloud agility. A lot of folks did a lift and shift. They're running EC2 and EBS volumes, and so they can crank it up if they really want to get performance, right? But the cost of that, we think, is quite prohibitive. And so with that, to summarize, this is kind of how we look at reality today for people in companies, people in IT managing their data. They have to deal with this complexity across all these different silos because, as it was pointed out in earlier sessions, there's a lot of data and applications moving to the cloud. There's some moving back to the on-premise. We believe it's dispersing to be where the action is. But what you can see in this chart, the level of complexity that you have to deal with for data protection has gotten exponentially worse. So now let's go ahead and talk about how Clumio actually addresses this. So a couple of things. So our goal for the services that we provide is to support the private clouds, the different public cloud applications, and the dozens and hundreds of SaaS applications, right, with a common set of capabilities that we call authentic SaaS. And so what do we mean by that, right? We mean that it scales on demand. Our service is built on top of the cloud, but it also specifically takes advantages of the latest and greatest microservices, right? It's an easy, secure, single service that can handle all of these different workloads. We have some early capability to support VMware and VMware workloads, both on-prem and in the cloud. We have support for EBS volumes. We are innovating very rapidly and adding new workloads. We have new innovation actually that gets pushed out and updated literally on a weekly basis. It's easy to manage because it is one single service. No capacity planning, no sizing, no tuning, no optimization that needs to be done. We offer up a service. Clumio handles all that complexity. One of the other key things that we really do differently is we offer predictable costs. While a lot of other vendors that you've heard from specifically still wind up, even if they price on dedupe pricing, they price on storage capacity used for backup. We price based on VMs that we protect and provisioned terabytes for EBS volumes. In other words, you have a much better idea based on what your costs are going to be, and we understand and have an actual engineering team dedicated to optimizing and minimizing our costs. But these are things that our end customers don't have to worry about. In addition to that, we give a global view of compliance, a common set of dashboards that you can see your compliance status at any given point in time, both compliance with backup policies, and we have a significant investment in compliance on our full platform. And our security is very simple and straightforward, but very, very important. It's always on. We offer end-to-end encryption. We'll get into some details about how we provide an air gap to protect against data loss and ransomware. So there's a significant and full and robust set of capabilities to protect data, both in the cloud, but also for all of the different types of workloads that customers are facing today. So to go into a little bit more of an example, a little bit of a click down on the offering that we have for VMware. Again, no limits on restores, no egress charges. Everything is included in the service. With one single centrally managed backup and recovery service, you can cover all your VMware workloads, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud. And we actually support data mobility and the capability to basically back up from on-prem, restore to the cloud, and go vice versa in the context of VMware Cloud on AWS. And I'll make a point that we're very proud of. End of last year, we presented at VMworld. We're actually, because of our focus, particularly on security first and our pricing, the simplicity of our pricing model, we were very proud to be honored with the Best of Show award. Moving on, some of the details in the most recent service that we've announced, the most recent workload. If you go into and support AWS native services, and today we support backup and recovery for EBS volumes, there are data and security concerns. Bear with me. Data and security concerns. A lot of the folks out there basically are snapshot managers. Those snapshots are stored in the same production accounts or same place, the same accounts as production. Lots of papers on the internet, lots of customers are starting to recognize that, that leaves customers open to the opportunity or risk, I should say, of data loss and ransomware. That's certainly a key concern, something we want to help customers with. The other element is the high cost of retention. A lot of folks, again, think snapshot managers are good enough, but snapshots cost 2 to 3 times that of equivalent S3 storage, much less some of the colder tiers. And what we find is people are actually making a decision about compliance on cost first, and then as opposed to data retention requirement compliance second. We actually think that's flipped. We think business requirements should prevail, and we should be able to help customers save money and have a much more cost-effective solution for data retention, which is actually what we offer. The other element is this high complexity for restore. Backups are important, but restores are the moment of truth for IT to be able to restore data. If you look at a lot of the snapshot managers today, you have to guess at, because there's no search capability, you have to guess at having the right snapshot. You have to restore the full volume. You have to basically rebuild a restore system to test it and hope you have it right. Each one of those runs could take 4 to 6 hours or more, right? We have a set of capabilities to be able to address all of these problems. I'll have a slide in a second that will show how we, again, create this air gap to prevent against data loss and ransomware. We offer SaaS simplicity, again, with predictable costs. I mean, from the point of view of 15-minute setup, no sizing, no design, no tuning and benchmarking. We've got that consistent per terabyte pricing, and in addition to that, we're already our estimates that customers can save 30 to 50% of cost just in managing the snapshots alone and keeping their in compliance with their data retention requirements. If change rates go up and the retention periods go longer, it can go even higher than that, upwards of 70% and above. And most importantly, at that IT moment of truth, right, we offer global search with fast restores. So the bottom line is, because we create a full index and a single global index and catalog for all the data that we back up, we have search capability. You can find the right file, pick it, choose it, and then restore it. Restore the single or multiple files without having to worry about restoring a volume, taking hours to do it, and then a lot of trial and error to do it again and again. Moving on to the next slide to click down a little bit. Again, this is an example. On the left side of the chart, you'll see how a lot of typical backup approaches store snapshots in the production environment. We have a solution that provides really no single point of failure. We take a known good copy and basically protect that with integrity checks, yes, with end-to-end encryption, but it's stored in Clumio in an immutable format. So there's really no way to get around that. All of the authentication and logging capabilities are authenticated within the Clumio service. And if something does happen and an account gets compromised, then we have those backups that can be fully restored. The customer can be back up and running. And we can manage all that with a single set of policies to protect not only all the VMs that are being managed and all the EBS volumes. And as we add workloads and services and capabilities, it will cover that, all that with that same common user experience and user interface, basically one single service. And so to wrap up and summarize here, if you look at it from the point of view of when we talk to customers and we hear the challenges and pains that they face, and I've kind of highlighted a lot of that, a lot of those challenges are, sourced by the issue of managing a lot of these old technologies, client-server managing the hardware, the software, the hours it takes to manage and upgrade. Those are a lot of the same problems that we hear about backup. And the interesting part is, if you step back, and this chart highlights it, if you look, it was the same common set of problems in a lot of different application areas, and it's a lot of these new companies built in the cloud, right, that are delivering, significantly less complexity, a lightweight, easy-to-use consumption model, and Clumio is bringing that to enterprise backup with our authentic SaaS capabilities. And so we believe that we're positioned very well to be successful in this market, and so far we've gotten some rave reviews, not just from the industry, but even more importantly from our customers about how easy to use our services and how it simply just works. So with that, I will wrap up my slides and say thank you very much for your time and attention. Here's some information on where you can learn more about Clumio. I'd love to chat with you on Twitter and on LinkedIn, so please reach out. But I'll turn it back to David, the moderator, to take any of your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great presentation, Steve. We do have some questions for you. Yeah, while we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll question, and it says, "What additional information would you like about the Clumio solution?" I'll just leave that up while we do some Q&A here. So let's see. First question that came in, they're asking is about. You talked about predictable costs. How does Clumio provide predictable costs?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The way that we do that is we think of it as, in some regards, as, and I'll specify, but pricing on the front end, if you will. So again, we price for VMware. We price based on simply the number of VMs that you have being protected. Those VMs can grow and expand. They can contract. The cost per VM is going to not only be the same, but the total cost is going to be the same. So regardless of how big those VMs get, how much storage, cloud storage we may need to use in the back end, that cost is going to be the same. So for the end customer, it becomes very predictable. It's a similar kind of thing for EBS volumes. We price based on per terabyte, per provision terabyte. So a lot of the other vendors, even though they take advantage of deduplication and compression and all that kind of stuff, you're still paying for the storage that you ultimately use, and a lot of times you see that, not so clearly perhaps, but in your account and in the cloud bill for your account. We don't do that. We just base our pricing on the amount of data that you're protecting, and we take care of the back end so you don't have to worry about it. So that's really how we deliver that. And I'll tell you, from talking to customers, they often do a double take. They come back and say, well, wait a minute, okay, so you don't charge for all that? And the answer is no, we do not. It's one of the unique differences we bring to the table. But great question.
Very nice. Yeah, and then a follow-up question came in actually that's very related, and that is, I mean, you talked about the pricing model. You said it's per VM. How does someone know how much it costs per VM per year? Is there a calculator, or how do they find that out?
Basically, they talk to our sales team, and it's basically very clear in that way. From this particular point, I think our rough list price. I want to say I think it's basically $300 per VM per year, which when you break it down is actually very economical. But we encourage folks to have that discussion with our sales team. So, but it's literally that simple.
Yeah, that makes it easy, and there's no backup server, backup storage to buy on premises, no OS to license, and all that kind of traditional backup infrastructure stuff.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just another question that came in. They're asking, do you have a VM that needs to be installed in the customer environment?
There is, and there's a thing we call our cloud connector, and certainly in a VM and a VMware environment, it's actually a very lightweight OVA that gets installed as part of that 15-minute setup and installation. It's very simple and easy to use. Even I, as a marketing guy, can do it. But basically, that handles a lot of the deduplication, compression, and encryption, and that also is the component that helps ensure that all the data is encrypted before it starts moving over to be backed up in Clumio. So it's a critical component, but it's also one that's very lightweight and really doesn't impose much in the way of overhead or resources on the customer's environment. And for larger environments, you can actually spin up multiples in parallel to bring the data over.
Got it. Okay. Another question here. We're using a snapshot manager to protect our EVS volumes. Isn't that enough?
Yeah, I will say we hear that a lot, but for some of the reasons that I touched on, when you go read into the details, you see that those snapshot managers store the data in production accounts. While people argue, well, I've never seen it, right? It's like, well, I've been lucky in the last 10 years, I've never had a car accident, but I still buy insurance because there's liability there. We hope it doesn't happen for folks, but there is a risk there. Again, if you go and search on it, it's very well documented in many articles on the internet. So that's a risk that we can help people really avoid. And then the other element of it is the point I alluded to earlier. It talked about the cost of those snapshots is very, very expensive. And again, we've had customers who have talked to us and they say they're basically, when push comes to shove, they're winding up deviating from their compliance requirements for data retention, exposing themselves to data loss. And it isn't always just bad actors. It could be good actors, trying to live within their budget, but they may delete data that they need to retain or have data that they really ought not to retain and whatnot. It's very hard to find that. And in that kind of scenario, they're basically optimizing just on the cost. Our view is data retention and compliance is important. You don't get a pass on that because you're in the cloud. Sorry to say. But from the point of view is we think we have a much better architecture and a much stronger strategy to really help customers, emphasize and prioritize on the things that are really important to their business. And let me tell you, we have healthcare companies, they get it, right? They have to live with, not just 30 days of retention, 7 years of retention, and things like that. They understand that, as do we. So that's why we say, snapshot managers, they perform an important function, but, stand alone or if that's your only solution, no, we respectfully disagree. We don't think it is good. We don't think it is enough, for a company with a viable business.
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice. Let's see, probably last question here we have time for. You say you provide simplicity, but backup is never simple. How do you make it simple?
The way we make it simple, as I say, is by removing, we think there's a lot of the complexity tied up in doing the design of a backup system, all of the architecture, the hardware, the software, the patching, the capacity planning, the upgrading, all of that kind of stuff. And honestly, we see very few companies who look at that and say it needs to be a core competence, right? Having said that, because of requirements for compliance, as an example, and data recovery and ransomware, you can't not do it. So you have to be able to protect your data. It's just you don't have to design systems to protect your data. And the bottom line is, the founders at Clumio have basically, their vision was to build a company, honestly, to do a lot more than just data protection. There's a lot more to the story for another time. But the point being is that we understand the complexity of the cloud. We've got some very experienced founders and a very experienced engineering team. And we're basically taking on that challenge and offering up our insights and capabilities as a service to provide that strongest level of enterprise data protection, but without all the complexity and hassles, et cetera, et cetera. And as I say, you see that in the fact that we offer a service, in the fact that we have a very straightforward pricing model, and in the fact even, although we didn't get to it, we provide a true service. We monitor backups. If there are issues, we automatically log tickets. If we see issues and we can solve them, we solve them. 72% of the tickets that have been logged since we launched have been logged by us. We're going to be looking to get metrics where we talk about issues that might have arisen that customer didn't even have to touch. That we just simply we saw it, we fixed it, we're just letting you know. and the bottom line is, in this kind of an environment, network environment, a VM can blow down, which means a backup can blow down. We can give customers guidance on what we're seeing, where the issue is, and help diagnose it, fix it, so they can be up and running and make sure their data is protected. So those are all the different ways that we provide simplicity today, and there'll be more moving forward.
Excellent, excellent. So to get started, just go to clumio.com and sign up for the trial. Is that how it works?
Exactly. If you go to clumio.com, you can look at our product pages, you can look at our overview and why Clumio, and if you go to the bottom of the pages, there's a free 30-day trial where you can check it out. It's a very easy, simple setup. We would get on the phone to just ask some simple qualifying questions to understand your environment, the kinds of things you're facing. There's some ongoing, weekly updates or whatever, just to check in and see how you're doing, make sure that you're successful. And so it's very simple, very easy, lightweight, and there's really no risk involved. There's no cost at all. So at least for the first 30 days. So that's we try to make it very easy to get started.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much, Steve.
It's been my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity and everyone's attention.
And thank you to Clumio for supporting the EcoCast today. For more information, to sign up for the demo, visit clumio.com. You can click on a link there in the Handouts tab as well for additional information. Looks like there's a product brief there with all the product technical details. And now it's time for our final gift card winner. That's going to Pete Gucciini from Texas. Congratulations, Pete Gucciini. Pete Gucciini from Texas. Previous winners were John Salzer of North Carolina and Sabrina Gratch of North Carolina as well. Before you go, I want to remind you to check out the 10 on Tech podcast over in the iTunes store. That's where we interview enterprise technology leaders and talk about innovations around cloud, storage, data protection, and more. You can follow us on LinkedIn, ActualTech Media. If you are a potential sponsor of an upcoming event, email connect@actualtechmedia.com. And I hope you'll join us on an event we're actually doing tomorrow. This is the Modernizing and Securing Financial Services Technology Environments EcoCast, where you'll hear from Sequence Security, Gigamon, KnowBe4, and Nutanix. More great prizes to give away on that event as well if you didn't win today. And after today's event, you'll be redirected to events.actualtechmedia.com, where you can learn more about our upcoming events. I hope that you learned a lot and had a good time. I know I did. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.